necessarily shit planted on you. So, you know, we don't live in a world where we need to be removing rules. We need to be in a world where we need to start looking at the rules and seeing if they work. So rather than removing that particular civil rights disparate liability, impact liability, I think that we should look at it and just see how effective it's been. Because the only reason they're trying to remove it is because the Supreme Court over time has narrowed it to where it's really kind of difficult to prove at this point. But that y'all, I'll land my plane. Y'all go ahead. Y'all give us another topic. We got range, but you know.
I think you and Logic kind of said two things that were similar that caught my attention. You used the word or the term fine tuning, right? Mm-hmm. And then Logic says this is something that we have to look at as those issues arrive, right? And I kind of think those are two similar statements because you know, like it is the fine tuning. Like we do have to look at it. So like just you gave the fireman's example, right? Mm-hmm. Fireman's example, right? Like that's a case where, you know, now we go in and do the fine tuning. Like this is come up. This is something that come up, right? Like Logic said, this case has come up, and then I don't know that, you know, oh, we gotta, you know, redo the whole fire department. I don't know. As you know, I'm not that smart to even suggest something like that, right? But what I'm saying is, what we need to do is we need to go in and do the. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is it that? What is the issue with the test that makes 80% of the black people fail and only 20% of the white folks or whatever, or other demographics or whatever? You know what I'm saying? How can we balance that out? And we may and on a real, if we being realistic about things, we don't have to necessarily get it to 20%, right? But we know that we definitely know that 80% ain't where we need to be at. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's that type of fine tuning that has to be done. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a whole system, and we don't even see it all the time until a lot of the times it's too late. You know what I mean? I think, you know, people kind of said things about the standardized testing, but I think that's a kind of more modern, newer thing. You know what I'm saying? That we just now finding out. You know what I mean?
But Corey, I had girlfriend who used to write tests. A test question is not as simple as it look. A simple test question. When even if you're teaching maths, or let's say you're teaching English, sociology, or any subject, and you're writing a test question is one of the hardest things for a teacher to write. I hope any teachers in here will disagree with me, because you have to take so much things into consideration when writing a question, that when this person read this question, what do they see mentally? What are they thinking? What kind of emotion or thought does this question agitate in that person's mind? It's scientific. So when people are writing questions for years, they understand who they're writing the question to. I dare anybody to just type in ChatGPT. Any teacher will tell you it's difficult to write a question. And we look at the broad-based test that they issue out. These persons' approach to writing these questions have been fine-tuned to their audience, to who learn what, to who know what. Because the teachers that you have growing up allow you to clarify how you think and how you approach problem-solving situations. So if you never have a problem-solving teacher in your schools, which we know certain schools are affected by that, when it comes to test time, these questions are going to look like alien questions.
But stupid.
Yeah.
Stupid. So, but I'm not saying. I'm just saying, like for example, walk with me for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked up. I want to stay on the fine tuning piece also. So there was a case in '71, Griggs versus Duke Power. It was the landmark case that created the doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
So this is essentially when it started. It says a company, Duke Power Company, required a diploma and a test for promotions.
Mm-hmm.
This blocked black workers, even though the test had nothing to do with job performance. So the Supreme Court said it was illegal, that it's a neutral practice that disproportionately harms minorities. Employers have to prove that it's job related. There was another case in '75, Albemarle Paper Company versus Moody. I know we boring y'all now, but y'all said we didn't have range. So now we're gonna have the conversation the correct way though. So this is legal policy and this is the shit I like. So Albemarle Paper Company versus Moody, 1975, white supervisors gave subjective job ratings, disproportionately hurting black workers. DIL applies to that. Selection procedures must be tied to business necessity. Y'all can look up Connecticut versus Teal, like the color, 82. And then you can also look up Texas Department of Housing versus Inclusive Communities Project in 2015. But now here's where it failed, though. Washington versus Davis. There was a DC police entrance exam. It flunked many more black applicants than any other race. The court said the Constitution's Equal Protection Clause requires intent, not just impact. And in that case is where it became narrowed in '76, where the Supreme Court, it says huge narrowing. It now means that DIL applies to statutes like Title VII, not directly under the Constitution. So then every case, if y'all understand precedent, now every case after '76 had to fall back to that precedent. So you got Ward's Cove Packing versus Antonio in '89, where it says courts raise the burden of proof for workers. Plaintiffs must pinpoint exactly which practice caused the disparity. So you see, like they're going through a fine tuning. So the biggest win for the case is probably Griggs '71. That pretty much established the DIL rule. But the biggest failure is still alive. Don't get it wrong. Like in 2015, they had the all-inclusive communities. But the reason why I say it needs fine-tuning is because now, even with the way that it is, the bar is too fucking high. And to be quite honest, the businesses that you're trying to fight, they can just call it, this is a business necessity and win the case. So I think rather than trying to get rid of it, I can see, this is where, because we don't do the checks and balances that I like to discuss all the time, we don't do the things to bring these rules to relevance today. What happened in '72 might not be relevant in 2025. The law may be, but you got to fine tune it. So right now, I think we need a situation where we could stop the systemic bias. I fully agree, but you need more clarity on, because I don't even know how you can prove in court unintentional impact. I don't even, that would almost, I'm not a lawyer. Maybe one of y'all can make me understand it, but if it doesn't make sense, that it seemed like the Supreme Court has narrowed it so much that it would be hard to actually prove, are we intending this, or are we, is this just a test for my job? If it affects a whole bunch of blacks or Spanish or anybody, it could be LGBTQ, it could be Asians, it could be women. Remember, civil rights is not just black. Civil rights is any, what is the damn word? We just said it earlier. Any marginalized group, similar to DEI. It's not just a black thing. It's any marginalized group. Go ahead.
All right. What eliminating this will also eliminate that one black person at corporate or that two black person at corporate that you see. Because in order not to enforce this, many corporations will promote one or two black persons to higher level that they can say, look, we are not being systematic in our approach to deny anybody. We're in compliance with the law. Other people have passed the test. Henceforth, that's why you see Darnell Johnson at a corporate level. But if we look at the reality of the situation, why is it that most corporate organizations, and you're a corporate person who with a board of 16 people, will only have 1 or 2 black persons in most cases? I have yet to see in a company, when I look at the corporate level, have 4 black persons at corporate level. I've never seen that.
Then you're not looking.
Which company?
You're not looking. No, but go ahead, finish your statement.
Sorry.
I actually go get you 20 companies. Is that we're not? It ain't.
Sorry, my apologies. My apologies.
Yeah, we're
like
like 20. I'll sit on some of these companies that you're talking about. My father, the people I know sit on them, and it ain't just. It ain't. And it's like this. It ain't 10 of them with 10 black people on the board, unless it's more of that company. But I mean, we got black people. Shout out to the brother. I'm gonna take 2 seconds. Shout out to the brother at Red Lobster that just took over Red Lobster, doing a fucking amazing job. No. I'd like to do a show specifically on him. Where that guy he took that company over. That company is about to go out of business. They installed a young black brother that's infused major energy into it. So that's an example right there. But good.
When I saw Red Lobster hire him, just like how American Express did hire the other guy, the CEO. When I realized that when these companies are facing dire strait and need savior, they vote for Obama. You might not like that analogy, but it's true.
Jesus Christ. Go ahead, brother. I'm listening to you. Go ahead. I'm not going to
anytime these Target, I'm going to bet. Anybody want $100 bet? Anybody want $100 bet that the next CEO of Target is going to be a black man?
I'll take that
black woman. Anybody want that bet?
I'll take that bet.
All right.
Target went under. Cracker Barrel.
Cracker Barrel is going to have a next one. Anytime these people realize that they're in deep strait and need to save the company, here come the Black Knight to save the company. But that is what we face now. What Trump is doing is trying to eliminate anything that he perceives as an advantage for black people or other people who is not white. It doesn't matter with the women, because the women might talk anything. They only complain because, as somebody said, as Malcolm said, they were in the heist, but they just didn't like the share. When the profits were cut up, they didn't like the share, right? I'm going full black.
They don't care about the collateral damage.
Right. I'm going full black knowledge.
That's the part that that people don't realize. CPs. Let me talk. Let me give a little bit of realness in here, right? See, what they doing is feeding their racist base some red meat, right? And but in doing that, right, it's a section of the white population that's gonna suffer. You see what I'm saying? But they don't give a damn. They willing to allow that collateral damage. You see what I'm saying? Just to satisfy the racism, white supremacy. And the racism, white supremacy maintains and conserves the billionaire class. That's it. That's how it go. That's how it go, bro.
I tell people this. As a person who's very observant, America has never been successful at anything without black people. Not all. When it comes to the wars, nothing. They've never win a war without black people. And they might tell you, they might hide them from the general public, where they want to be when they were getting ripped to shreds, crossing from England to Germany. The bombers were getting ripped to shreds. They were losing hundreds of pilots. They had to run to black people to save them. where they want to be Patton, who was being held and being the white soldiers being slaughtered. They couldn't break through without the black battalion. Where they want to be the civil war, they couldn't win it without black soldiers. It is built on black people, but they don't recognize that. And they're trying to make it more invisible that the average African American, when they ask him, did you know that America today, the glory shining light on a hill, is built on the back of black people? That every step that was taken could not be accomplished without black people carrying everybody on them back. Black Americans paid us FBA. That's why I call them black people in this instant. I don't want anybody to misconstrue that stupid is saying black people internationally. I'm talking about American black people build this shit. But you wouldn't hear it. You don't hear it from anybody. They act as if it's all white people. It's that black people is only a thing, a pinky on the hand. When black people is the actual thumb. Okay, who said okay?
No, sometimes like when it takes you so long to get to your point, it'd be hard to actually figure out where
I
you're
finish.
in there
No,
so
I said
long.
okay, but I was talking to my wife. My fault. Go
Okay,
ahead, Logic.
yeah. So go ahead, Logic.
Yeah, so I think us in particular we discuss our particular relationship that we have with oppression here in America, right? And because of how it affects us personally, we have a relationship with it. But I think if you're trying to actually understand it, then you would need to understand it in a bigger concept, right? So like and every time for me, it's an eye-opening scenario for me, right? Like it's eye-opening for me to realize that the same forms of oppression that we deal with systematically here aren't this isn't the only place that deals with systematic oppression. We might actually have our unique brand of it, but systematic oppression happens in all
Unique.
sorts of different environments. And I thought that when you look at the epistemological colonialization kind of framework of it, what it kind of actually says, right, is that you're almost just looking at a byproduct of like complex society, period. Right,
You got to
and
say that last part again,
that
Logic.
Yes,
Logic.
yes, repeat. Yes,
Logic. You got to say that
like
last part again. You
that
cutting out.
may be
Logic.
too big of a
He cooking too.
concept
He cooking. Logic. You chocolate screwed, G. Damn, I don't want to kick my brother.
Hey, anytime Logic talking,
bar, so
he don't
Logic,
never
you have to
think
start
he
over.
can
You have to
talk.
start
No,
over,
no,
Logic.
no. No, start over. No.
I think once you
Start over.
get like a
We didn't hear
bigger
not one word.
picture.
Just start over.
Okay. Right. So we have our intimate relationship with oppression. Really learn it wouldn't be specific to our time period.
it's always from the outside looking in, it looks like a futile effort. Even inside of it looks like a futile effort. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing we can do. This is what it is. Like you say, it's a byproduct of the system. It's not necessarily somebody like doing it, right? This is just what happens. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I hear what he's saying, and he's right. He's right, because if we look at it, what Trump is doing is on a micro level. It might feel like a macro level, because to the billionaire class, nationality and race don't matter. What matter is that you have people who you can suppress and extract resources from and put them in a position that you need them to be in. So if you need a laborer class, people who's going to do those jobs, that the most undesirable jobs, you have to decide who is going to be your labor class and how we're going to keep these people at that level. So although those people aspire to greater situations, and the law used to protect them, that they could aspire to those greater situations, we are going to remove these safeguards and let the chips fall where they may. So if these safeguards were protecting one group of people, but we don't need those group of people to aspire to that level, we're going to remove the safeguards. And it has always been done. So these laws are safeguards to protect people, to enable upward mobility and remove a class system and a race system, that your class is no longer determined by your race. If I remove these safeguards, then what will happen? The chips will fall where they may.
Trump is just playing, when it comes to Donald Trump, he just playing 3-card money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he's looking over here while he's doing this over here. You know what I'm saying? The sleight of hand act. You know what I mean? Like, so the museums and all this, all of these different little things he doing, right, is all a distraction, right? But he know his base is racist. So like at least he gotta give them something. Like, so let's start fucking with the museum, the Black History or the History Museum, the Smithsonian. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just think it's a lot of distractions. You know what I'm saying? I think.
But why is he distracting people, Corey? Why do you think that he's distracting people?
So that he can distract somebody.
Because he a pedophile.
No, but not only because he's a pedophile. It's because no.
Hey Corey, before you go down the streets, you gotta let me go.
Yeah.
You gotta let me. You gotta say something. So I get out. At least let me get out the car.
I'm not fucking around, but I'm not. But go ahead.
Corey, that's not the reason. What's happening now is that if you look at it, the billionaire class is no respect of nationality. Nationality don't matter to a billionaire because he can live anywhere he chooses. So although he's American,
that's the real reason, Stu P. You're right. I just was bullshitting.
Yeah,
but yeah,
nationality don't matter to a billionaire. Anybody who tell you that,
but they doing what I complain about. This is what I complain about every day. Y'all should know this. What they doing is redistributing the wealth.
Right.
They redistributing the wealth even further than they was. So they're gonna steal they finna steal close to $200 and something trillion.
Right. It don't matter worldwide. Worldwide. The Arab who is a billionaire he can live in England. He has houses in England. He has houses in London. He has houses in New York. He has houses in LA. He has mansions all over the world. Because nationality don't matter to those people. But people tell you, the American billionaire with the house or the chateau in France and the $300 million yacht, it don't matter to him. So when people say he's American, that don't matter. All that matter is that we're going to use this system to subjugate many people, irrespective of race, and we're going to extract every drop of blood from them.
Mm-hmm.
I got a question when you're done. It's gonna fuck the whole conversation up, but I'm in that kind of mood right now.
Yeah, fuck the conversation because I'm ready.
So what is exactly Pan-Africans' plan to solve this? What did I say? Something? Did I say something wrong? I apologize. Did I say something silly? Oh wait, am I being silly? Am I not in that conversation now?
Okay. This
I apologize,
is mine.
Corey. I didn't know this. I didn't know.
No, you're right. You're right.
No way, Pan-African talking on this level. It's the you know what I mean?
But this is the
level
right. That we need to be at.
Brass, you're right. Brass, but what you're asking, the question what you're asking is, what is black people plan? What future?
That ain't what I'm asking. No, that ain't.
You're asking that question indirectly, but what is
have separated black people from Pan-Africanism.
Okay.
See, here's the thing. Stupid.
That was
but Brass.
No, hold on, like, and then cut me, like, give me 2 seconds. Because when I tried to say that it's a whole bunch of different Pan-Africanisms, now you saying it's black. But not even 45 minutes ago, I had 15 people yelling all at once. It's African.
I've always said that they're black.
It's this.
No.
So
I'm always saying that if you say Pan-African, you're saying black. If you say the Organization of African Union, you're saying something else.
Hey.
So,
Brass, when you were checking it out, did you?
I'm just gonna tell you that.
Did you get the sense, right? Did you get the sense of how racism would just fit within a much broader thing? You get that point when you read it?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. That's all.
I think it's the racism that we don't even talk about. Most people, if you ask them about if you ask them about the impact, if you ask them anything about DIL, they won't even know. They think that racism is the police brutality, is the this, that, and the other. The actual racism that black people face every day that you don't even see. Your child gets it when he goes to the public school in his area, the lunches, the food deserts. You don't even see those kinds of things. You don't feel those kinds of things because we constantly got all these goofy ass elders talking about the dogs and going to the bathroom and all of that shit. Like, that ain't got nothing to do with the racism that we face today. That's why it's like, well, the racism back then is different to the racism now. No shit. But at the end of the day, we still face some pretty severe racism. Like, for example, Stupides, I don't like to get into, the comparisons, but when we start talking about, one of the largest wealth builders, Corey talks about wealth. And he talks about how they're going to redistribute the wealth. Well, most people, broke people or people that don't have much financial literacy, don't understand that the majority of any American's wealth is home ownership.
Mm-hmm.
It's home ownership. So when you fuck us over in the appraisals, you fucking us over in the redlining, you fucking us over in the mortgage lending, you fucking us over every step of the way to by the time we get a house, we damn near just getting the house that you allowing motherfuckers to get, even though you got the same qualifications, probably more salary, and a better candidate. I would say that's about as vicious as any racism as there ever been. Because if black people don't get into home ownership, if we don't get into that kind of wealth game, you can't even really participate in wealth from a fucking apartment. You can't participate in the wealth game in the United States without equity in a home. Not in a real way.
And let me tell you this, Brad. Let me tell you
Corey,
this about what you think.
My last sentence.
I don't want to see your point. You're on a good point, but go ahead.
Yeah, how many of them homes, we're telling kids today that they got to go get a home as if it's as easy to go get a home now as it was. Like now it's way difficult. It's way more money. And most of the people that's telling you to get a home, they bought these homes for $25,000 in the 70s, 60s, and 70s. These houses are now
working at the supermarket.
These are houses that are worth millions of dollars now. And now you're telling a child that's supposed to do the same fucking thing you did, but now the house costs $1 million. The house costs $700,000. This ain't no $25,000 house. The system is completely going against them. And if we don't get into home equity and home ownership, Black people as a race, we won't be able to participate in the wealth game because we lack in the two biggest areas as far as wealth: life insurance and fucking home ownership. That was my soapbox. I apologize.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
wasn't
but
even a question.
let's be honest.
Braz, I was gonna tell you
Yeah.
real quick, Sweet Peas. Braz, I was gonna tell you, I watched a couple of my white homies who took over their parents' house, right? And it was a burden when they took it over, right? Them houses that they took over, bro, then turned them into millionaires within like a 2-year period. The houses just went up and up and up and up and up. Now they millionaires. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just like that. Just
No,
like that. You know what I mean?
If they want a truck to buy, them have access to hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equity. They can pull that out of the house easy as Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Right? No, but that's the situation. But then what they manipulate the system in communities that are high proportionately Black, those communities, the house values were never allowed to explode at that level. They got higher, yes, but what they did, when you look at Detroit, some of the houses where Black people own, all of a sudden, those areas became deserts for many other institutions.
But you got to say why. Don't just leave, because most people don't know why. I'm from the Midwest, so you got to also tell them why. It wasn't racism. It wasn't a discrimination. There's a reason why Detroit became a desert. It's very easy, but tell them why.
GM, but
it's multi-factor. It was greed.
Yeah, I agree, but just tell them
it was greed.
It ain't just
one
racism.
of the reasons why it was greed, because many of these
you know what though?
them
white boys that was working at GM though, right? They went out and started working construction. They went out and got business loans, right?
Yeah.
And started construction companies. See, them Black folks, that's what it's a little racism in there.
Yeah. No, I didn't say it wasn't no racism in it. I'm just saying it wasn't all racism. That's all I'm saying.
Right. It wasn't initial. So I guess the initial, but the ripple effect, and this is the exact thing that you actually talking about. The shit that we don't see. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? The shit that we don't see that's going to affect us way worse, because them white boys went and got business loans. Started
because the second generation, not the first.
Shit like that. Yeah.
It wasn't the first generation. The father worked in the plant and by the house. And the second generation, when Black people were now getting into the plant, those white boys didn't need to go to the plant because they had access to different resources that the parents already extracted from the plant. Now, these plants decided that I'm not going to facilitate you Negroes like how I did facilitate the white boys. I'm going to Mexico with my company to get a higher profit. I'm not paying you as much as I paid white people.
Yeah, but during that time, working at GM was the cheat code for not having to go to college. See, there was a time in America. See, that my generation, not my generation, I say my brothers and sister generation, like the late 80s, 90s, that was when, the 80s specifically, that was when they started talking about go to school for 12 years, then go to college, come out, get a job, get married, get the picket fence and all of that. That's the 60s, 70s, and 80s, right? Well, 70s and 80s, not the 60s. But then it became a situation where, I know in Ohio, you said Detroit, so I'm going to just speak about my specific area. General Motors was the cheat code for laborers, because you could very well have no plan to go to college at all, go through your 12 years of high school, or you could go get your GED. You could work at them factories. You could buy multiple homes. You can go on vacation every year. You could have you could put your child through school, and just that alone, right? So that's just your local, this, that, and the other. Whereas the white people in those same areas that were in those management positions, these people that still got college educations, went and worked at GM. And then when GM closed, they were able to move on to something else. And then, but when GM closed, for the people who their plan for their family in Ohio was, yeah, you can go to high school, but after high school, you just go to work at GM. They got a housing program, they got a car program, they got a college program for your kids. But when you took that cheat code away, and I don't think they took it away to hurt black people, it was just General Motors trying to make more money, whatever. It hurt us because it's similar to how COVID did. It just put a light on, COVID just put a light on the healthcare, the healthcare issues the black community already had. Then you started seeing all the black people dying, and it was those underlying issues, and you started seeing like, damn, my healthcare situation is fucked up. Now we might have known it, but COVID exacerbated it. When GM closed, it showed you the level of preparation the black community in Detroit and Ohio. It showed you that we weren't prepared for that. But in any kind of corporate situation, you got to understand, I'm gonna land my plane, is that nepotism and the good old boys network has saved white people since Sodom and Gomorrah. Like it's time immemorial too. Like remember, the whole corporate structure of CEOs and shares was to make corporations a person. So then now you could they could get the same benefits of a person. So when they're going to put these people on these boards, when they're going to put these people on the boards, they're not looking for people to do it. They're looking for friends so that they can get these same tax breaks. They could push these same things and have no pushback. So when we're saying we're not, that's the thing you don't see though. Until it gets into your face and you start looking at, I'm going to just use a colloquial example like the NFL. 70-80% black players, no black owners. NBA, 78% black players, workers, not a lot of coaches, not a lot of black owners. So you also got to remember that sometimes something has to happen, like the plant shutting down or COVID, for us to see how bad our issues are actually in the black community. Like we didn't know, we knew our healthcare was bad, but when COVID hit and those underlying issues was just started taking us out, it realized that like we just weren't prepared for the next level of the game. Because Corey, you and I both know, being from the Midwest, there were functional generations being fed by General Motors, bro. But when it was gone, we just weren't prepared.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, it's like I said, and then even being informed, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so like a lot of the white community saw it coming. You know what I'm saying? The black community just wasn't informed a lot on some of these issues too. So, you know, that's a whole nother thing, man.
Yeah, I've been saying financial literacy is our civil rights movement. I'm with John Hope Bryant on that. I'm gonna stay on that because I think that's an actual fight we can have. I think it's the actual fight we can win. I don't know if we can win all these other fights. I don't know if unifying all black people under a banner is gonna work. I don't know if somehow, this, that, and the other, but financial literacy is something that you could start in the home. Life insurance is something you could start in the home. Home ownership is something you could start in the home. You could start where you at, and we all end up being unified. I think I'm gonna do a show on how for me, financial literacy is our new civil rights movement. And if we all got on that kind of wave, I think that would help us a lot better than trying to somehow figure out what Lumumba and Nkrumah and all these other people did and see if we could just do that shit again. Because it didn't work the first time. I don't know why we're still trying to do the shit in 2025.
Did anybody find out about the scandal that happened?
I think also in the fight, in the civil rights fight is unionizing, right? Like unionizing with your brothers, with your co-workers, right? At least, gain some type of camaraderie, so that it ain't. It's a bad business, like especially for black men and women, right? In the workplace where you're in competition with your coworker. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying unions is good for all, because some cases is that competition is good, right? There's some industry where that competition is actually productive, right? But most of your blue collar work, right? in unionizing, right? That's what positively the union positively disproportionately affects the black community. You know what I'm saying? So that it takes a little bit of pressure off of that individual. You know what I'm saying? You're not such an individual in the work industry. You when you have a little more power in the workplace, it makes life a little bit better altogether. You know what I'm saying? So I think we know not enough people talk about that part of it. We talk about a lot of other shit, you know what I'm saying? But the fact of the matter is most of us spend most of our time at our workplace. You know what I mean? Like a lot of us spend more time at the workplace than we do at home. You know what I mean? So, that's the place, that's where you start at. You know what I mean? The place where you get your money, your livelihood. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where the fight is at. Once you get control of your industry or your sector, whatever sector it is you working in, right? The control and having some form of power and say so, right? That kind of bleeds out into the rest of your life. You know what I'm saying? Because now you have a little bit of time, right, to get other shit together, to be involved in other shit. When you got your money together, right, you can focus on different things. You know what I'm saying? So I think like we need to focus on that workplace. You know what I mean? What are we doing? Because we getting the jobs. We can get the jobs. Black people in the past few years, right, there's been record low unemployment now. In this administration here, shit's going south, right, pretty fast. But I'm saying, like, when I go out, I see Black people out working. I see Black people doing all of the jobs that make America function, So with that, I'm saying having the power in the workplace, right? That's where it starts at. That's where your power starts at right there. You know what I mean?
Where my challenge would be for the unionization, I apologize, I'm cooking. I hope somebody else could talk. I'm cooking now. But my only issue with the unionization, Corey, is that I think personal financial literacy is something that we can control more than something that a president or a vote can be removed. Because I fully believe if we all got behind that plan, it would definitely be effective. And I think it would definitely be the first thing that they would motherfucking put a fight on and try to remove. Versus if you just got personal, the one thing we don't suffer from, well, I won't say that. That's too broad a statement. The one thing I do know is we might have an issue with access to capital, but we do have access to some capital. We do have capital, but it's getting the access to more capital. I think if we could just figure out, even if it wasn't even like a thing where everybody had to make more money, I think we could still be in a better situation because we will be able to do with the money that we have, just make better decisions and put us in a better place. And I think that that's something that you can't executive order out of office. I've seen them, and you and I both know that they attacked the union as soon as we really got involved in the game. You've seen they attack those fucking unions, and I hate it.
The Right to Work Act is kind of really. The unions was already only like 4 or 5% of the work place. At least when I got into the union, right, into the trades. you know, it was only 4 or 5% of the working class was unionized. Now it's down to like 2%, 1 or 2%. You know what I'm saying? So that got to do with things like the Taft-Hartley Act, which is which is the Right to Work Act. You know what I'm saying? Which is all tied in with the Citizens United. You know what I'm saying? And all of these different names, they name them, you know, these names like right to work, but you know, it's everything but that. You know what I mean? That's all. You can always tell like what a bill is built to do by the name, right? So whatever the name is, it probably built to do just the opposite of whatever the name is, right? But yeah, I think that's another thing too. With the financial literacy, right? Understanding what's in these bills that's being passed and how these bills is going to affect you. You know what I'm saying? Because once these bills are put into place, you know, like everybody always, you know, that was always a saying, like it'll take an act of Congress to do such and such. That means it's basically impossible, right? So you know what I'm saying? Like that's just a saying, right? But it's true, right? The implications of it is, right? You know, once it's codified into law, once it's passed through the Senate, the House, and then the executive branch sign off on it, right? You're gonna have hell to get that turned over, bro. You know what I mean? Like, so you know,
Corey,
go ahead.
I will agree with you, and I will also agree with Brass that financial responsibility is important. But if we be realistic, I put in my gullah hat now. If we be realistic, the average Americans don't have $500. If you ask somebody about financial responsibility who can't find $500, it's going to be difficult. But also, I believe in unions because the most powerful unions here in America get what they want. And when we talk about the police union, the fraternity of police, right? Although the different state, they still operate. They're the real Pan-Africanism. If we think about what Pan-Africanism should look like, that every police is not the same police, but they fall under a big umbrella that protect each and every one of them. Is one of the hardest groups to get fired, and if they do get fired, they get employed somewhere else.
Yeah,
and if yeah, right. So when we look
same
at that,
thing with an iron worker, a union.
I
Same
agree
thing with
with
a union iron worker, right? You know
yes,
what I mean?
yes,
They can run him off. They can run this one guy off the job because they don't like him or whatever. He a piece of shit, but he gonna go right down the street to the next job.
and he's going to get the next job.
I agree with the $500 comment, but when I'm talking about financial literacy, I'm gonna give you two examples. We fall behind in something as simple as life insurance.
Because they can't pay it.
No,
pay it.
because they can't. No. They don't have the literacy to know that they can. So I'm gonna give you an example. If you did two examples, a 529 plan on your child at birth, even at fucking $20,
that would be cheap.
Even at $29, even at $20 a month, and then you throw some extra in at holidays and this, that, and the other, you effectively could start your child off at 18, 19 years old with a fully paid college education, or a business that they could take the money and invest in, or a home. Another thing that people don't understand, I mean, they just a start. You know, they start off with a closing, with a this, that, and the other. But that's a separate conversation. The other part is just as simple as something as life insurance. Now, people say they don't have $500, but they do have 20. And for everybody saying that Black people don't have $500, I would like for you to look up how much we spend yearly. So we have $500. It might not be in the bank, but we got $500. So a life insurance plan for, I don't know, 7, 8 year old, whatever, this or another. You put $20 life insurance, term life insurance. You can get into index life insurance. You can get into universal life insurance. You can get any kind, but I'm just talking about specifically term. A $20 life insurance policy on a child that he can then maintain when he turns 18. You're talking about you can get damn near $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 worth of life insurance. Now, the
Yeah,
reason
but
why something like that,
Brad,
hold on,
let me cut
hold
you for a
on,
second. Let me
hold
just
on,
cut you before.
hold on. I'm
Yeah.
only got 30 more seconds. So my
Mm.
point is a lot of times when y'all think, not y'all in here, but people think, well, white people got this and white people got that, white people got this. Well, if you look at the statistics and you look at the study and you look what's behind a lot of the Caucasian, European, whatever y'all want to call them today, wealth in the United States, is simply that when their people die in their family, they're passing down a couple $1 million. They're passing down estates. So it's not that this motherfucker that got all the money is so brilliant or he's intelligent. They bought the plan for the motherfucker before he thought about it and kept it going. So it's really just life insurance. That's a big wealth transfer. And then on top of that, it's a home transferring when that person dies versus minorities and marginalized groups in situations where when you die, it's a fucking fish fry or a GoFundMe. Or there's no wealth being passed, there's debt being passed down. And then on top of that, it's an apartment, not a home, being passed down. And then we add in all of the civil rights, the redlining, the appraisals and stuff like that. So the one thing I don't want to do, Stupies, and I'm doing this on purpose. I know we got a lot of excuses that we can make for our people, and I'm all for it. But we do have to sometimes just call a spade and literally say there's some things that we can do without trying to unify with the entire globe. Y'all go ahead.
I agree with you, Brass, 100%. You have not said nothing wrong. The only caveat I would add to what you're saying, this is the caveat I would add, and if you agree with me or disagree with me, is that my generation and the 30 to 40-year-old, you Negroes can't be saved. Let's not focus on your children. Let's get these insurance for your children, because half of us have so much health issues in our community. The dialysis machine, the kidney issue, that your insurance is going to be held to pay. You might not be able to afford it. But your children, you can, especially if you start them early in a term life, that's almost no money, none at all. So no, let's start investing in our children. Stop trying to save this.
I can agree with that.
Right?
But
So
as
I
long,
agree with you
but
totally.
when you get the plans, you have to then pass on the literacy so that they can then do it for their child. And you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like, remember, like wealth building in the United States is not difficult. It's not.
Let me finish.
Really not.
Let me finish. When I was in the HIV program and I was working with people, and we had a meeting, I said, listen, these Negroes that over 25, you can't save them. They're setting their mentality. You can't teach them anything. Let's drop the age down and go after those persons who have not started having sex yet. Let's try to educate those kids so we can change their mentality. And that's where we're at with this progress now, is that I can't save me because I done set in my ways and I done broke. But I can save my children. Let's focus on the children. Let's see how we can save them. They want to go to college. What if I tell you that at birth, if you just put $20 a month aside, by the time they reach 18, you'll have $40,000-$50,000 to help them pay for the college.
Yep.
That's a conversation we need to have to say, listen, you can't save Stupies. Stupies engine done, and chassis bent, in windshield break. The amount of money to fix Stupies, you might as well buy a new car. But that kid that's coming up, John Luke, who coming up, Stupies' son, oh Lord, I can invest in him.
Yeah.
That's where the resources need to go.
But not just the money. Invest in him, the importance of
it. Yeah.
Because you know, Stupies, we were like that as a people before. My grandmother used to tell me stories about the guy that would come around, you know, the 10 cents, the quarter life insurance policies and shit, the AJ Gassens and all of that. Like, we had this in us, bro. We had it. It's just like, and that's why I was talking to C-Dot in the chat. Shouts to him. I love that he joined our server. But even Martin Luther King realized with the civil rights, we could sit here and talk about the spirit of civil rights all day long, but even Martin Luther King realized after the civil rights bill got passed that without economics or without any kind of economic justice, the civil rights damn near don't fucking matter. Because we're still, okay, now we have the rights. Now what? Are you going to let it, are we going to have the same rights in home ownership and wealth ownership and the corporations? Like, all right, where's the economic justice? Okay, now we can go to the same bathroom and ride at the front of the bus. Great. But even he admitted, hold on, wait. Even he admitted that's why his next march, I don't know if that was literally his next march, but the march I'm speaking of after the civil rights was the poor man's march. And even he realized this is not a black conversation. This is now a wealth conversation. This is the poor people, all poor people. It wasn't just black people. There was a situation where he saw the government was just taking advantage of everybody, and we need to address it. And the funny thing is, when he was doing civil rights, he didn't get killed. As soon as he started talking about poor people's march and making sure finances was in the hands of all people, he got shot. So it seemed to me that this whole game wasn't about race and civil rights. You can't fuck with them. You can't fuck with them economics though, because as soon as you start fucking with them economics, you gotta go.
You realize that now it comes full circle to the question you asked originally. You realize that statement that you just made turn the conversation full circle to the laws that are being eliminated to protect people. Because it has always been about economics. Black home ownership is at the same percentage it was 60 years ago. People who own home, children are more likely to home own. People who don't own houses, children are more likely not to own houses. It's part of the system that's in place. That is systematic racism. Why is it that it's the same percentage that home ownership has not increased significantly among black people over the last 50 years instead of increase? Because it's common sense. It's the system that's in place. No. The only thing you can do is educate people. And how you educate them, going back to what I used to do, is you tell them to listen. I can't save you, but I may be able to save your children. You don't matter in the whole. You don't matter. You and I don't matter in the whole scope of things. You don't work hard for yourself now. If you were working only for yourself, Brad, you could stop working. But you're working for who? Your children.
For my grandkids. Yeah.
Right? So therefore, that's the message that you tell black people that, listen, I can't save you and you can't save me. We're drowning. We don't take our last breath yet, but we're in the water. But we can hold the children higher. And this is how we can start with simple things. But many people don't want to hear that message because they're competing with the children.
Can I say something? They're not just competing with their children. I'm going to say something that's going to be radical. Don't give a damn. Most people see kids every day and say they love them. But if you look at their actions towards their children, they don't give a fuck about their kids. When you die, you leave them with all kinds of fucking debt. You're not even attempting to use the tools. That's what I mean by the literacy. Because I gotta assume that most people don't fucking know. It's inexcusable for a child at 18 to not have a good start. To not know a 529 plan, to not know
Let's
make sense. It's stupid. So I gotta believe that you love them because you saying it, but you damn sure ain't showing it. And I'm paying attention to the action.
Yeah, but what is you're putting the bar too high, Corey. It's inexcusable for you to have a 12-year-old who can't read properly, who can't read at the level of a 12-year-old. Start simple. Start them with simple skills, reading skills. No, that is what we're talking about. If you start, we're not even talking about the insurance, all of that. Just simple things. That is what's holding us back in many cases. Anybody else on?
No, I'm on. I was in the chat. You're right. It did come back full circle, right? Because when you start explaining all those little things aren't Pan-African. That would be full circle about the whole conversation. And I think to be completely honest, right? Like it's a good conversation to have. Don't get me wrong, right? About the practicality of it. But I think that once you get real serious about what it is you're trying to accomplish, that's what it's going to boil down to. It's going to boil down to the small fixes, right, that'll lead to bigger fixes, right? You got to fix the small things before you can start working on those bigger things. And it definitely does not make sense to skip those steps and take on a monumental task such as rebuilding Africa, right? Like we definitely can't jump so far in the in the whatever we're trying to do that we skip the initial steps, because whatever those initial steps, right, would almost be really you revitalize or rebranding Pan-Africanism so much to where it's not Pan-Africanism anymore.
No,
You're
but
just doing the little things.
yeah, but my thing about Pan-Africanism is that Pan-Africanism can operate on a micro and a macro level. That's what how I view Pan-Africanism. It starts in the household. If you can look at your black son and say you want better for him as a black man,
Stupid
or your black daughter,
Pan-Africanism can't start in the household. You can't
of
be
course it starts
born
there.
during
That's where it
Pan-Africanism
always
and not
started.
be familiar with Pan-Africanism. Like that don't
No,
even make sense.
that's where it starts. That's where it starts. That's where every ideology starts. Every ideology starts small and it starts in the household. That's where what Brass teaching him children, his ideology, his belief system, him start with him children first. You have to take into consideration that ideology starts in the household and then move on to the communities. It's baby steps. It's not going to be this big umbrella that covers all. It starts with baby steps. Confucius said the journey of 1,000 miles begin with one step.
Africanism does not start until you start uniting with Africa. It can't start. I can't start uniting with Africa in the household. It just can't.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise that's just romanticism.
No, I just I don't know. I have my own thoughts on the Pan-Africanism. The whole conversation now about why we don't look at someone in the chat. Let me see. Babylon makes a good point too. It says, remember this convo, what you just spoke, so we could build on the financial literacy, although you do not mention mathematics education at all. I agree. It's one of the highest paying fields in all jobs. It's math in damn near every job. Any job you could think of, there's probably a mathematician or some form of math needed, and we're not represented highly in that field either. He's 100% right. I agree. And just for clarity, I don't know who else said it, but there was like a sentiment that we were saying that the civil rights movement wasn't shit. That's not what we were trying to say. Whoever said that, and even if people are saying I said that, what I'm saying is after the bill got passed, Martin Luther King in some of his writings, even he began to talk about the fact, and there was still some post civil rights hate at the time. If you study it, that we didn't get the economic justice along with the civil rights. So while civil rights were still good and it meant a lot, and the civil rights movement meant a lot, it's a galvanizing moment in our history. He still decided to go back and make sure that the economics was addressed, because now that you could sit in front of the bus, and now that you can get some form of civil rights underneath that, economics was not something that was fully addressed. It's just a fact. And unless your parents got lucky, you got that set of parents that bought one home in the 70s or one home in the early 80s when they were still somewhat affordable. I got lucky and had a parent who created a portfolio. And the basis of the portfolio is real estate. And most rich people or people that are comfortable will tell you in the United States, outside of inventions, there isn't a lot of wealth for people outside of real estate. It's the easiest way to build wealth. The easiest way. Because wealth is not cash in the bank. I'm sure y'all understand that, but remember, we're on YouTube and these shows are for human beings. So I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, but I'm not seeing the actions. I tell people financial literacy and they're like, well, we got financial literacy. It doesn't show. And we're talking
I'm just
about
saying,
Pan-Africanism and FBA and like Logis Kemet and the Meta Netter and all this shit that's quote unquote supposed to somehow lead us, know your origins so that you can move forward as a people. Like it's all, I don't know, bro. If we're saying that they were trying to address Eurocentrism in the 50s and 60s, and we're 60 years later, and y'all still fucking now y'all arguing over who's black in Egypt, and most of the people that's discussing Black Egypt broke as a motherfucker, living check to check, you might want to focus on a different conversation. So I don't like talking about finances and politics because it makes these other conversations that we're having irrelevant. Shouts to RP for changing the tenor of the conversation. We could bash Pan-Africanism all day, or we could just talk about some real shit and not some shit. Just help your fellow man and call it Pan-Africanism. That's what you want to do. Mm-hmm. But if y'all not talking, we can close up because pretty much everybody on mute. And now I'm just talking.
I think I'd love to hash it out, man. Maybe we done exhausted ourselves a little bit, but like I think there's not much more there. You know what I'm saying? We really would need somebody like C-Dot, somebody with all that passion and fervor for it to get us into the future, so we can actually figure out where are some potential road bumps in what he's talking about. But as far as like just the concept alone, like just concept, right? Like everything we just using your imagination at that point. I just feel like we tend to think so far ahead that we ignore some of the potential problems with this particular plan, right? So like I remember when C-Dot was talking earlier, he basically was like, I don't even want to address these potential problems, right? But you would like for us to consider that you have a serious plan. See, that's an oxymoron. That's got to be a contradiction of some kind right there. You got a serious plan that you want us to follow, and if not, we Uncle Toms and Coons. But when we ask you, hey, what about this part of the plan? No, don't ask about that. What the hell?
Or what about the?
I think it's a problem with us always. My bad, Smalls. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I think it's a problem where we end up holding the bag per se. You know what I'm saying? Like, all this Pan-Africanism. Like I said earlier, bro. Like history tells me, right, as far as African Americans go, we need to see something first. You know what I'm saying? Before we do anything with anybody, right? Let's figure out how we gonna benefit before anybody benefit off anything. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where I'm at with the Pan-Africanism. We can
cut the check, Africa. That's where I'm at. Cut the check, Africa.
Then we can talk after that. You know what
You're
I'm saying?
murder.
Reserve some of that land. Just cut off a section of land and say, come get it. You know what I'm saying? And then we can do some then we talking Pan-Africanism then. You know what I'm saying?
That's the reason why earlier
I don't even want that land.
I called it.
Come on with it.
That's the reason why I called it.
Don't. Hey, Mama said don't turn down nothing but your collar, boy. You better cut that shit out.
But boy, that's the reason why earlier I said this shit was nothing but birthday cake, and it's a bunch of feel good bullshit though. Because not only number one, do you not want to address what's gonna come? You see what I'm saying? Like how the fuck do you? Or when it's stupid, this is no knock towards you because this was your take on it, is that it's only an ideology. I mean, that's fine. But it's like if I say that's all okay, as an ideology, I just don't really see where, I don't find much value in it. I don't see why I gotta be all kind of coons and sambos, but now what I will do is stop, and I said this before this conversation,
I don't like to blanket all Pan-Africanism is bullshit. I did that today, and that's only
Lord, can I
because
ask
P.
you a
Dot
question?
asked
Can I
me.
ask you a question,
Y'all
Small?
gonna
But
get
that's
killed.
only.
Y'all
Go ahead.
really
Go
gonna
ahead.
get killed on this
Okay.
Pan-African conversation.
No. Let
Yeah.
me ask a question because
Uh-huh.
it's about expectations. Because everybody's saying that they are not Pan-Africans and they don't see themselves as Pan-Africanism. All right. Let's say your Pan-Africanism, as you defined it, is unification of Africans with all black people. What are your expectations? What would you expect Pan-Africanism to provide? Let's hear it. Because
Shouts to
many
Psycho
persons are
Patriots.
against something and they
That
have
would
unrealistic
be hard for
expectations.
me to answer.
Yeah.
No, it's a
Well, I
simple
guess I could.
question.
It would be something like Haskell had mentioned earlier. The attempt to, the ability to leverage off of one another to get different goals accomplished due to our unity. To me that sounds like something tangible. You know what I'm saying? I could go for that. I don't see how the fuck you do it, but I mean, it sounds good. I don't know how it's gonna work in practice, but like that would be my sort of
It's only
that's
one way Pan-African can work for me. You know what
All
I'm
right.
saying?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
you
let's hear it. What's
Pan-African
your
work by
expectation?
cutting off, by slicing up some of that land. That's how Pan-African work for me. You know what I'm saying? Then we can do, because like,
Slicing
it's
up
like
the
Stu
land.
P said
Why?
earlier. It's like Stu
That
P
was
said earlier.
Is America
When
slicing up
I'm glad
land for
you're
you?
back. I'm glad you're back, C-Dot.
that
No.
that was
Yeah,
something
yeah.
to
but
their
Hold on,
economy
real
though,
Don't
quick.
ask
Corey.
me the question yet, see that. I
That
want to
Is,
hear
was
what
tied
are
is
your
into
America
their
slicing up
economy
expectations.
though.
land for
To
you?
tell them to cut a check.
I'm saying like it's
Is
like
America
Stu
cutting you a
P.
check?
It's like Stu P said earlier, right? Everybody come
I don't
for
get
the
no answer.
African American to get your shit jumping,
Hold
right?
on, C-Dot. I know you
You
came in
go,
here to kill us, but let them get their shit off and then pull your gun out.
yeah.
Kill us
I'm
all.
I'm gonna answer. See that I hear him. I
Yeah,
hear
yeah.
that loud.
He chomping at the bit. Go ahead, Corey.
No.
C-Dot,
What's your
C-Dot either
expectation?
on lunch or he just got off work, so he ain't playing.
Oh yeah, I'm off
No,
work, but
because
I'm muting. I'm muting though.
yeah,
Let y'all go ahead.
see that. Let me just address this and I give you the floor. Because everybody's anti-Pan-Africanism. And they know
I'm
read
not anti.
everybody's saying that.
That's
Let
not
me
it.
finish. Or
Go
not
ahead.
anti. Everybody's saying that it's not going to work or it's not going to do. And you ask them to just verbalize what is your expectation. If I'm anti-marriage, I can tell you why I'm anti-marriage. But just to say I am anti something, and I said to you, say, what is your expectation? What expectation do you think that Pan-Africanism would not be able to fulfill? That you're so against it, or what you want from Pan-Africanism? That's the question I'm
Well, I
asking.
wouldn't even know how to answer the
Did you
question
get?
because I just
And
don't. I don't know. It probably not. You
but
probably
Did you
get
that
get what?
somebody else
Did
to
you
answer
get
that
my
because
answer
I
though?
just
Did you get
couldn't
my
answer
no.
answer?
the
Let,
question.
let, let, I'll go in one step. Then that is a situation then that I
Close the
am.
wealth gap. I'll say it for y'all. Close the wealth gap.
So you expect
Okay.
because let's be truthful. As I see it, as a fan of history and friend of past, a fan of past history, I understand that when we address Pan-Africanism, we're asking countries to cut checks for resources that they don't even control on their own. Pan-Africanism is not an overnight system. Just like how CARICOM and the unification of Caribbean countries in the 60s, 1962,
All
1952.
you just
Let me
said
finish.
was include
That's
Africa
exactly
is
what
not the
I'm
best
talking
route to
about.
get it done there. That's exactly what you said.
When
I
y'all
did
when they
not
get their
say,
shit together good
all right,
enough to be able to dish us out some of that shit, right? When they get their shit together good enough for them to be able to say, okay, y'all can come over here and have this, and this, right? Then we can
all right.
talk about Pan-Africanism.
But,
Bruh,
Right
your
now, they
shit
got
ain't
to get
together
themselves
though.
together where they controlling their own shit.
That's so weird.
Corey, what are you doing now, Shina Bustin? Because let's be honest. if we talk about production for wealth, the factors of production are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurial skills. Everybody who did simple business know that, right? Most black people worldwide do not control the capital or the land. What we are in control of is the labor and the entrepreneurial skill, the people. Pan-Africanism seek to strengthen the people and their ideology in order to facilitate becoming the landowners and using whatever small capital they have for their own development. We have been fighting this struggle for years.
So what did they bring into the table?
World.
What everybody else bringing to the table first, 2P? That's my question. Like, I know what
everybody bringing the same thing to the table. Every black
bringing
person bringing themselves, them don't own shit.
No, I knew.
What the American black bringing to the table? What the American black bringing to the table?
We ain't doing that, stupid.
What the American black bringing to the table?
Hey, hold on.
I'm
Let's
not
put a pin in
bringing
that.
myself to the table. We can't do that.
Yes,
because the one thing we've done,
so maybe Psycho can help.
Hold on. Let's put a pin in that. Hold on. Let's put a pin in that.
That's
real
all
quick,
I want.
a lot of times we be having conversations in here and we don't have the other argument, right? So a lot of times it ends up not like earlier when we had C-Dot where we're kind of having combating points, but we got two brothers in here that I think are coming in here to the defense of Pan-Africanism. But I just want y'all to go on mute, give Psycho and C-Dot the floor. Just listen. We all been talking for a long time. Most of y'all need to take a break. So C-Dot, you go first. He was here first. And then Psycho.
It ain't fair because Psycho argued too good, man.
No. A bunch of people, because the crazy thing is, and this is why I agree with Psycho and C-Dot, a bunch of people that don't believe in Pan-Africanism, don't know a lot about it. Discussing Pan-Africanism is actually a silly conversation. So let's actually get some people in that have more of an idea. C-Dot, you and Psycho work out the times, but y'all take about 10, 15 and educate us or just say whatever y'all want.
Nah, he can go because I only wanted to respond to what was said directly to me.
Okay, go ahead, Psycho.
Okay, I'll let Psycho go.
Can I just speak to Psycho real quick? Psycho, peace. What up to you, bro?
Peace. What's good with you? Yeah,
go ahead, bro.
Chilling.
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to. I was just saying, like, I was listening for a little bit, and I wasn't even sure if this was live. That's why I didn't even comment at first. But,
no problem.
But yeah, I was listening, and again, I just hear a lot of people really not understanding what Pan-Africanism is. Because every time I hear people who aren't Pan-African describe Pan-Africanism, it immediately goes into we got to go back to Africa. We gotta build up Africa. We got to go get land in Africa. Do all this stuff. Everything is always centered around Africa. And nothing in Pan-Africanism states that you have to go to Africa. You got to build anything in Africa. Nothing states this. I mentioned in the chat, I know this channel is a huge supporters of W.E.B. Du Bois. That's a different conversation. But I do find it funny, though, because W.E.B. Du Bois was Pan-African.
No.
W.E.B. Du Bois was Pan-African, so
he became one.
Y'all shit
Come
on
let him cook.
y'all also shitting on W.E.B. Du Bois ideology. Y'all not just shitting on Marcus Garvey, or y'all not just Malcolm X and all these other people. Y'all also shitting on W.E.B. Du Bois too. Like just to put that part out there. But yeah, Pan-Africanism simply states that you and other people of African descent have common interests, and y'all should work together to try to achieve these common goals. Now that does not mean you have to do it in Africa at all. Like W.B. Du Bois was not preaching go back to Africa. Matter of fact, he was against the go back to Africa movement. He helped
and then he
down
went back to Africa, though, Psycho. But then he went to Africa.
So, he was totally Pan-African. Now I don't like W.B. Du Bois, but I would never say he's not Pan-African. Right. So again, just to show you how widespread this ideal is. Right. So we need to understand what this is actually stating. It has nothing to do with going to Africa, building up Africa. And then I heard y'all say one more thing real quick. Now I'll pass it to C-Dot. I heard y'all say Africa needs to kick out the check. Africa needs to kick out the check. Okay. what does that even mean? Because that's a whole continent, 54 countries. And all 54 countries, we all 54 countries was not involved in the transatlantic slave trade. Matter of fact, none of these countries involved in the transatlantic slave trade. It was tribes that was involved in the transatlantic slave trade. This is before the continent even got carved up. So again, so we be saying things that I don't think we really putting a lot of thought to it. I understand the smoke for Africa. I'm still trying to understand why, but it's a lot of smoke for Africa for whatever reason. But we need to just understand, we're going to attack this idea, at least address it from a proper perspective of what it actually is.
Well, that changes the dynamic a little bit, though, Psycho. Like when you say that, well, this ain't got nothing to do with building Africa up, or going over to Africa to better them somehow. You know what I mean? So like I said, it changes the dynamic. So what does it entail though? Like, so now you got my ear, because now I want to know, maybe because the way it was described to me, it was like a whole bunch of connecting with Africans on the continent, and we all one, and getting
no.
You know what I'm saying? So
can I get in on an explanation of that? Because I can give an example. Okay,
go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
You say gang violence. Okay, right now you got well, I don't say right now, but in general you've had Crips and Bloods banging on each other, GDs, Vice Lords, whatever gang. You know what I mean? So a way that you could practice Pan-Africanism here in America without going to Africa or dealing with any Africans in particular. Just like the brother Gullah was bringing up earlier about gun violence. All these kids out here got switches and all of that. So a part of Pan-Africanism is finding solutions for the problems that Black people are having throughout the diaspora, which I explained earlier. Finding solutions for the issues wherever you are in the world, and also being supported by other Black Africans throughout the diaspora. So it's not like I said, it just even Stupid's brought up early. It's about we, not the me. So it's all a mindset. If your mindset goes to the we and not the me, then you don't want to kill that other brother just because he got on another color.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these changing your mindset helps in the long run. Like that is the beginning process, is to change your mindset. If we got a bunch of Black people who don't want to change their mindset and they only want to stick in the doom and gloom, then you're not gonna achieve any Pan-African success. So the point of Pan-Africanism is to connect Black people wherever you are. You know what I mean? You can do it right here. You can do like what y'all was talking about with John Hope Bryant and everything. I've been following John Hope Bryant from the beginning. That's one of my favorite people to go to when it comes to finances. So I agree.
And I was one of the ones that was saying Africa cut the check, because it was like I was using it in the way like y'all saying Africa, so I'm saying Africa. Like, so I don't know what specific countries y'all was particularly wanting to align with. I'm gonna assume maybe the
Black Africans. That's what I'm saying. Like the Pan-African movement is about African diasporan people. So it's not just about the Africans on the continent, but it's also about Africans in England, Africans in, wherever you are, it's about Black people getting together in order to change our circumstances for the better.
Okay.
That's the ideal of Pan-Africanism. That's why we all have a problem with trying to figure out what issue y'all have with that ideology.
I have a problem with that. I guess fine. It's cool. I'm cool with it, right? Fine. But
it's a matter.
I think we can. Our focus, right? I think it's a lot of things to focus on, bro. Like the diaspora. You know what I mean? Like, I understand the will and the connection, but let's make sure this is connected first. You know what I'm saying? Like, before we get international, right? I think we got to get city to city. You know what I'm
That,
saying? Like,
that's
you
the whole
know,
point. That's the goal of
okay.
Pan Africanism, though. Like the
Well, let's
goal
start with
is
Pan
to
African
start
Americanism first,
small.
and then we can flow into Pan
That's
Africanism.
fine. But
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It's not,
okay.
you keep going back, you keep reverting back to Pan-Africanism being something that solely has something to do with Africa. It's
No,
about
I'm
the
saying
African
international and
diaspora.
just international period. You know
That's
what
what
I'm
I'm
saying?
saying.
Not
If
just
you only
Africa.
want to focus on America, that's fine. That's not a
Oh,
problem with
yeah,
Pan-Africanism.
exactly.
Pan-Africanism does not knock you from wanting your fellow Black Americans or whatever you want to call African Americans. It's not stopping you from doing any of that. So that's why I keep wondering, like, what is your real issue with Pan-Africanism? Because it's not stopping you from doing anything here in America
But nobody
for
never
Black
explained it
Americans.
to me that way, though. You know what I'm saying? Like they
Yeah,
always explain it to me in a different way. They never,
I
you
was
know.
trying. I was trying. I was trying. I was trying.
yeah.
Yeah.
And to your credit,
I,
Stu Pease was
I don't
fine,
know. You didn't do a
and
good job.
also,
CPs, you usually do pretty
Like,
good, but you did a terrible job of
Good job.
explaining that.
well, he tried to.
like it
He
is.
tried
Yes.
to. And here's the thing. Also, to his credit, Dot, you explained it too, and as I said, even under your definition, I think I would actually be a Pan Africanist. I don't think when you got off, I didn't get to tell you. I think you and I would probably clash over the definition of the black as far as the unit, the unity, as far as who we're calling black, right? I think that's where you and I would find conflict. But I did want to take this opportunity to ask Psycho, if it's okay with everybody else,
I mean,
kind of put that same question towards Psycho that was put uh, 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 towards everyone earlier, and that is, do you think that Pan Africanism needs a tangible objective, or is it more of an ideology? And what would be, if you could name maybe at least one of those tangible objectives, like Logic said, like the wealth gap or something. If you could name one of those tangible objectives, what would that be? If you think it even
I would
needs
say
one.
I would say the wealth gap is critical based on regardless of whatever Pan African you talk to, because Pan Africanism is a broad umbrella, right? Like a lot of things encompass this, right? You got people that are the people that y'all talk about that want to go back to Africa, think we should
Mhm.
repatriate and everything else, and go build up over there and everything. I don't agree with that ideology, but there are people out there that believe that's cool, right? But there's also people that think we should try to build a nation here in America, right? There are people that don't think we need a nation per se. We need to just pretty much just do what y'all talking about. Financial literacy. Do X, Y, Z, whatever the case may be, and just blend in with the system. It depends on who you're talking to, right? Because there's no one set rule to it. Kind of like the Democrats, right? Democrats is a whole bunch of different ideologies pulling and tugging on the Democratic Party, right? But it'll be
That's a good
unfair
point.
for me to run into a Democrat and say, "Oh, you're a Democrat.
Mhm.
That means you're gay," because Democrats support gays, i.e., you're gay, right? But and that's
That's
kind
a
of how I
good
feel when
point.
y'all say y'all Pan Africans, y'all all want to go back
Go
to
back to
Africa,
Africa. Yeah,
right? Y'all kind of
that's a
just
good
throw us
point.
under that part of the umbrella and just everything like they the over encompassing, totality of Pan Africanism, and y'all kind of just run
Well,
with that.
I think Pan Africanism, the representation ain't. You know what I'm saying? Because most of the time when I get it, and to be fair, like C Dot earlier, like that was kind of basically like along the lines where you was kind of coming from, like yo, we gonna leverage the good, the goods and minerals against the whatever the opposition, because you know what I'm saying, like in order to get whatever we want, what I mean, we're aligning with some of these African countries to leverage that power, that or that those minerals or whatever against
right.
whatever other entity.
But even
You know
that,
what I'm saying?
Corey, was that was like that wasn't me that came up with that. That was the other brother with the Pharaoh picture or whatever. I can't remember what his name was. But that was him that came up with that thought process. What I was saying was that thought process and a lot of the other things, even the question that old boy asked me earlier, was way into the future type of thoughts. I'm not even that far yet. I won't sit here and tell you that, okay, yeah, all we got to do is go to Africa and then all of a sudden everybody's going to be united and we just going to, like, no, I'm not. I don't think about Pan-Africanism in a fantasy mode. I view Pan-Africanism as something that actually helped me stop viewing other black people as my enemy, which I feel like personally helps me as as an African American. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like that helps me because now I no longer view my people. I appreciate other African cultures, whether that and that's also just in America, because we all practice different cultures on different sides of America. You know what I mean? But I have to learn to appreciate those in order to come off as respectful. I want other
And that's
black
something
people. I
nobody
want
can
people
take
in
away from.
California. I'm
We
just saying, I
can't
want
take that
people in
away from
California to
you.
not. I'm sorry, say that again.
No, I'm saying that's just something that nobody can take away from you. The fact that it works for you personally in that way, you know what I'm saying? Like nobody can take that away from you. So you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't even attempt to kind of pose an argument to, against something like that. But
Yeah, so that's what I'm
go ahead.
saying. Like it's a personal. That's what I think. That for
Mhm.
me, that's what Pan-Africanism can do for every single black person in this country. If people adopted an ideology that helps you appreciate other black people, then I mean, of course that's gonna help us not want to kill each other. That's gonna help us want to say, okay, well let's have a conversation instead of me being ready to jump off a bridge. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like all of
Can I
these
say
things
something
in
to
the
that?
I think
Pan-African
we all on the
ideology.
same page. I think we just
It's
call
a
it different.
whole it's a whole lot of capping going on.
I
Yeah,
think
can
I think we
I
just
think
call it
No
different.
capping.
We
That's
all
all real.
I'm trying not to butt in because I know you don't like being cut off, man. But I mean, like, so, like in some regard, like I'm trying to get to where, like, so, like, what are the, what's different about, like, if I owned a business and I wanted to buy products and services from an African company, right? I can do that. It's legal in America, right? So I'm trying to figure out if I was a Pan African who owned a business, like how would, like what advantage, or, like, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm trying to figure out what makes what I'm doing now different. Because
I would employ.
all the things
Well,
that you
unity would
listed,
be
I
beneficial.
remember listing before, were things that are actually legal now. You can actually contact them and do business
I
back and
love
forth. The
logic.
American government is stopping you from doing that. So, like, what's the difference between doing it as a Pan African and doing it not as a Pan African?
Okay,
Whether,
number
whether
one
you
is
claim
that the
Pan
Pan-African.
Africanism or not, whether you claim Pan Africanism or not, you still could move like a Pan African. Like most of y'all moved
Right.
as Pan Africans your whole life before you even knew what Pan
Right.
Africanism was. That's why a lot of stuff that me and C Dot saying right now don't sound foreign to y'all because y'all already was moving that way. Like,
Right.
because y'all just wasn't
Exactly.
claiming Pan Africanism. Right? It's like
Cap.
that's not cap.
That's
That's
what.
not cap.
No, the only thing.
Would nobody on this panel be here today if it wasn't for Pan Africanism? Everybody
Facts.
had to
More
drop
cap.
that. When we got on that slave ship, everybody had to drop that tribalism because we all didn't come from the same tribe. We all from different tribes. We amalgamation of different tribes. And we all, when we got on that slave ship, we had to drop all that tribalism, all that beefing and everything else we did on that in Africa. We had to drop all that and become one people. We have become a race, and that's what Pan-Africanism is about. It's not
Now
about a
that's
land.
true.
It's not about a land.
The other stuff you
Psycho
were
don't
saying
fight
is the
fair.
new era
Psycho
hat
don't
for
fight
the
fair,
mall.
bro.
Cap.
Me.
Leg.
It's real. He
Yeah.
is exactly right
Hey,
though. And with
that was
bro
a good
bringing
argument.
up the financial part again, like that don't like I don't know why we keep reaching to that part because like I said, if I'm a Pan African, my thought process is that I want to employ as many black people as I possibly can. That's a Pan African thought process as a business owner. But if I don't have that thought process, then it don't matter who I hire. I just want to get whoever is gonna come in for the cheapest. That's a capitalist mindset. I don't have the capitalist mindset. My mindset is to benefit and progress other black people.
And that's what a couple people said earlier that was on the panel when y'all had the discussion earlier. I was at work, but they were saying like, well, I might be a Pan-Africanist and I really just don't know it. You know what I'm saying? So you know, I think y'all got a point there. You know what I mean? So definitely.
I mean, by C-Dot's definition, I think damn near all of us are. You know, by that definition that C-Dot
Well, the only
just
part
gave,
that's
I mean,
different is
I
that
don't
y'all
have
don't
no
like
argument
y'all
with
don't like
that.
diasporan Africans. That's y'all. That's what makes y'all not Pan African is that y'all are against diasporan Africans. Y'all just care about African Americans, and that's
I'm
it.
just not against. I'm not against them. Like it's just it seemed like, so the way that the argument was going earlier, right? It would make you kind of argue in that kind of way, right? But you know, because sometimes you want to be a little bit hyperbolic to get your point across, right? But you know, so it's I just wanted to now that y'all saying that, you know, that's not the position, like the whole going over there and building, you know, Africa up, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, it changes the
Now, some
dynamic.
organizations have that position. Some Pan-African organizations have that position, but that's
Right.
that organization, right?
Yeah.
Right. I have that position personally. Like that is my position is to build up Africa as a continent and create a symbolization of a United States of Africa. That's my hopes and dreams. But I don't forecast that on the next Pan African because their ideology might have them reaching for another goal. So that's why Pan-Africanism ain't set up to attack somebody else's way of Pan-Africanism. It's really, I mean, that's what you're doing. As long as you progressing black people in a positive direction, that's the goal. So however you choose to do
everybody
that,
has the same
right, and that's why every time you say that, you get mad at me because I say that you can't have no state and no nation without a military, and you get mad at me. But go ahead.
No.
Y'all
Hold on,
talking about
Psycho.
a
Hold on
version
1
of
second, Psycho. I can't let him get
oh
away with
man.
that because that was wrong.
Go ahead,
No,
brother.
I've never said nothing about that, bro. Like having having a United State, like even with the comments that I made earlier when I was talking about dog, like if it requires you to pick up a gun and do what you need to do in order to protect and serve your nation, then that's what you do. Like I'm never the type of person that would say, oh no, I just need to be all peace over there. I know what will come down the line. But my ultimate goal is getting to that point because we're so far away from it. We're so far away from talking about
before the horse talking about military. Yeah, that's
exactly, and that's what I was trying to say earlier. I don't go that far into the future because I'm still focused on how to get to the point to where we even talking. You know what I'm saying? We erasing lines and we create new ones and all of like that's what I want to get to the point of. And I know that the military aspect and the protecting our natural resources and all of that is way down the line. Even if I know that I understood the problem with manufacturing over there. I know that we don't manufacture enough. We depend too much on European countries in order to get manufactured goods of our own resources. So I understand that those are all, and people in Africa understand all of that. So it's not lost on nobody about all of the steps that need to be taken. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, Psycho, when you get a chance, I'm gonna cut you for that Du Bois disrespect. You're gonna stop coming in here and disrespecting W.E.B. Du Bois, that great African man, African American man. No.
Not this time. I actually was letting y'all know that he was a Pan-African. He
my
part of the first
show.
Pan-African
No, here you go.
Pan-African.
But I can catch your disrespect. This ain't your first foray into Du Bois disrespect. So I did the Boulay show. You came in here disrespected, but you was nice. We did the Hazen show on fraternity. He was cool, but the shit you said today was just wrong. And they didn't catch it because they don't know Du Bois. They just know the name. But I know the actual that's probably my favorite.
He's
black
not
leader.
Pan-African?
No, I didn't say that. See?
Okay.
I didn't say that. We'll do that another time. I don't want to derail the conversation, but I think I need to talk directly to you.
I wanted to hear that
with
one.
Your Du Bois.
Yeah, we can do that.
Du Bois.
Hopefully, see that. Hopefully, at least I want to be able to. I actually want to have the conversation. So, some kind of way, I'm attempting to have it in a way we can leave out all the extra shit and just talk about the plan. I'm not coming at you. I don't see a reason for you to be coming at me. And I said that because I wanted to give Psycho some credit. Psycho, you the second best Pan African I've ever met. I'm gonna say Marcus is the first one. Y'all have a brand of Pan Africanism that I agree with. So I'm gonna just put that out there. I be trying. So the fact that I'm saying that will let you know I'm fair. When I do agree, I'll just say it. I ain't gonna be contrarian. I be agreeing with a lot of stuff that you be saying, and I don't want to because I want to be able to have a back and forth. But damn, when I agree, I just be like, damn.
So why you disagree with Stew Peas? Why you disagree with Stew Peas? Stew Peas brand isn't any different.
The truth is, he just don't like you.
Well, you
I
start
know
talking.
I don't mind Stu Peas. I mean, Stu Peas hovered for a long time. He got a lot of gasoline in his
everybody in
airplane.
the world. If everybody in the world go hungry, Chevron and Stu Peas was saying they wanted to help the whole world out and all this old wild shit. Like, bro, no, we can't help the whole world out. That's why I disagree with you, Stu Peas.
Mute up, small.
Nah, you good in my book, Stu Peas. I would just like you to land your plane a little sooner, but other than that, you good in my book.
Nah, Psycho is he's the best. He's the second. No, he's the first best national black activist politician, and calling that shit Pan Africanism that I've ever heard. And that's where I land my plane at with him. Y'all ain't describing Pan Africanism just by helping black people. That's just helping black people.
That's co-opting helping black people into Pan Africanism, right?
You could say it's part of Pan Africanism, but Pan is all. Pan like definitely has something to do with global politics. So if we just gonna say as black people help other black people, we be in another place, and you want to call that Pan Africanism, then that's your version. Like I said in the first place, your version of Pan Africanism, not necessarily what Pan Africanism is. And the definition is
you holding the door open for old ladies as Pan African.
Yeah, come on, bro. You're just a nice human being.
You and Logic are being key contrarian.
I ain't really said that much.
What about the Africans coming over here and then they help us build up over here? Then we gonna go back over there. Like we gotta. That's what I'm saying. Like
who told you you gotta go anywhere?
Like if anybody gonna do anything, let's do us first. Then we can fool with everybody else. You see what I'm saying? Like because history if you look at history, right? We always the ones, right, that end up the ones fucked over. So I'm saying we need to benefit first before anybody benefit off anything. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. Bring something to the table, and then we can talk about building up and community and all of that. And this, you know, I'm just not with a lot of that, you know. And that might sound like, oh, I'm against. That's another thing I wanted to say. I don't want it to sound like I'm against, you know, Africans or nothing like that. I'm just saying, like, I think they got a lot of issues that they need to worry about, and we got a lot of issues that we need to worry about. You know, and then once we can take care of our issues, our domestic issues, then we can become more international.
I don't think you got an argument, but I know for everybody saying that Garvey didn't believe that we needed to go to Africa, I just want a quick quiz question. Where did W.E.B. Du Bois die?
In Ghana.
And where did he? And when he went to Ghana, why did he go to Ghana? Because he was disillusioned with trying to install Pan Africanism here. He was working with Kwame Nkrumah to write that book, and he died over there. He was disillusioned.
Yeah,
but his original.
Okay.
Go ahead. Well, I mean, we could do different states of disillusionment, but I mean, I don't think I would disagree with anything that you're about to say, Psycho. I'm just being clear on
disillusioned with the NAACP.
Well, yeah, that too. Yeah, I agree.
Also the black elite.
Yeah, I agree. And the elite. Throw the elite in there too. Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's these different versions of Pan-Africanism. Like, and that's my only concern. It's the different versions that always end up being kind of frustrating. And then also Psycho and Psycho. Or to the chat, just everybody. So there was a time, I think somebody brought up Gaddafi earlier. and Gaddafi was trying to donate $1 billion to African Americans on this continent. And the US blocked that shit because of the relationship at the time, not because he didn't want our help, but based on the standing that that country and us had at the time, they blocked that shit. So I don't want anybody to make you think that it's just as easy as just start sending money all over the place, doing this, that, and the third. If we're talking about global Pan-Africanism, my only concern, C. Dot and Psycho, I want to be clear. I'm not being contrarian. I think black people can help all black people. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that the version of Pan-Africanism, when I hear it from 30, if you put 30 Pan-Africans in a room, you hear 30 different versions, and the majority of them, it doesn't go to what the origin of what it was supposed to be. It's some new version based on the difficulties that we face in today, which makes sense. But I'm trying to figure out still how Africa, I don't agree with Corey.
People in different places have different problems.
Right. But Pan means all. Wait, hold on. But Pan means all, which means you bring those different people in those different places together to solve, like Chef made an amazing point the other day. We might all have different issues, but there are some issues that overlap that we all have as Africans, African Americans in the diaspora. So we may not have to come together on gang violence. That might not matter to somebody in Africa, but we definitely have some shared issues that we can be Pan-African on, and that'd be a good start.
Yeah, like now when like you said, you get 30 Pan-Africans in the room, you're gonna hear 30 different versions of Pan-Africanism.
Yeah,
no, you're gonna hear 30 different solutions on how we get hit the end goal of Pan-Africanism.
And I won't argue with that either. I won't argue with that.
Now, because like I said, Pan-Africanism is just a blanket term, and we all got the same end game. But we got, like I said, we got different ways to go about doing it, and that's what you will hear the differences in. Like, okay, we should do this, and we should do it this way. We should do it that way, and everything else. But we all got the same end game.
Well, some of y'all don't, because some of the Pan-Africans that I hear, it is the Pan-Africanism of let's all get together, move to one place, start a government, start a military. Like, we're not just making this up. Logic ain't get the military. Like there are some Pan-Africans that talk that cash money.
That would still be the same end game, because that would be the upliftment of black people, right? Like,
well,
it
and
might
that's
not
more,
be,
and that's,
might not
and that's
be
more
in the destination that you would like it to be. And I'm not the go back to Africa guy either. So
exactly. So he's he has a more black nationalist viewpoint of Pan-Africanism. So me and Psycho have disagreed.
That calls it Pan-Africanism.
No, I'm saying black nationalism is still the ultimate goal of black nationalism is still black power. So like Pan-Africanism can't be against black nationalism, even if we have, like I said, there's different solutions for everybody. You know what I mean? For me personally, like I said, and I'm not gonna ever say Psycho's not a Pan-African because he wants to be here. I don't give a fuck about America for real. You know what I'm saying? Like that ain't that. I don't think that it's gonna help us in the long run. We outnumbered. Personally, I got too many arguments.
That's a tough statement.
Yeah, I got too many arguments against. You know what I'm saying? Real true black progression.
I don't
in
even
America.
know if I mean, like, damn, shit. Okay, go ahead.
But
I'm
that's
listening.
just but like I said, we can have different points of views, but at the end of the day, the Pan-Africanism part means that I'm not gonna be against what he got going on. As far as his black nationalism, I'm gonna support it as long as it's pushing for black people, and he's not gonna be against my repatriation.
Yeah, but if you don't give a fuck about America, at some point there will be a clash.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I give a fuck about I give a fuck about the people. I don't give a fuck about the system, the government. Like that's the part that because I don't see, we don't have enough unification here in America with black people, and we fight against unification with like incorporating more black people. So it'd be weird to me. That's why I said like we literally have different cultures on each coast of this country.
Mhm.
So why
I
do
just
we
think
think
you want America to
that?
be better. I don't think it's fuck America. I just think you want America to be better.
Why
I
you
do.
speaking
That's
for
what I'm
that
saying.
man?
I
That man
do. I
said,
do.
"Fuck
I do. I
America."
want it to
Let
be
him
better
stay
for
right
black
there.
people. So therefore,
Nah, don't
I would
save him.
never push against America, black people progressing in America. I actually support black progression in America. Like I said, but black people don't agree even in America on how we move forward with that black progression. Some people don't feel like they need to get involved in the government at all. I disagree with that. You know what I'm saying? So it's disagreements everywhere that we still got to have conversations about in order to be able to progress. That's one of my main reasons for wanting to repatriate, because I don't think black people want to get on the same page over here. So it's
But
like,
you still acknowledge that those same forces exist in a different way in Africa. You still have stratified societies where people at the top have more than the people at the bottom, and there's
yeah,
more
at
people at
least
the bottom than there is on top, and the policies and all that
yeah,
stuff is slanted
all
towards
that.
one ethnic group over another. Right.
Yeah,
You go over
I think
there
all of
and
those
be
things need to be
looking
worked on. I
for
think it's just easier
and
to
be
work on with
fighting a
more people.
similar fight.
I just think it's easier to do it with more people. It's over 1.2 billion black people on the continent of Africa. So, and it's only 40 million here. So I think that it's easier to motivate other black people, especially being surrounded by black people, even though, like I said, you got what I call coons and sambos everywhere in the world. You know what I mean? So it ain't no different in Africa. Some people ain't gonna be with that. Some people gonna like to be, they love being up under the colonial thumb and all of that because they benefit from it. But some people ain't gonna want to let that go.
No, you said
But
jigaboo earlier.
no, I ain't say jigaboo. I don't
I'm
even say
just
that. I
I
say
I'm trying
heard
to
jigaboo.
I heard
identify
you
this
say
magic
jigaboo
pill,
earlier.
right? Because
I
these black
heard
people are
somebody
already
say
living there
jigaboo
around black
earlier.
people.
Jigaboo. Who said jigaboo earlier, bro? Because
Somebody
I
said.
was cracking up,
I
bro.
don't
That
know
was
who said
funny as
that.
hell.
I
That
say
was
It's
funny.
that
funny.
my,
You never
my
hear these
favorite two
terms
terms.
unless I'm on a conscious community show. I do not hear these terms in real life unless I'm on a panel or talking to somebody that's just the wildest shit ever. Never hear it. Nobody ever says it. But
I
I
don't know
done
where
heard
you from. I'm
Sambo,
from the South. I hear it all the time.
jigaboo. This shit crazy.
Oh,
But no,
jigaboo. I don't know nothing about that. I don't know
yeah,
nothing about no jigaboo.
that's a wild time to call somebody motherfucking jigaboo. Lord. But go ahead. I guess we're all used to it at this point.
Can I throw a question out real quick?
It's a
Got a question.
scientifically literate statement.
Yeah, scientifically literate.
I'm just
Um,
saying, Go
was
ahead.
there ever a point where we believe or we think that Pan-Africanism was fully defined?
Yes, in the beginning. Yeah, in the beginning. I think it was I think the definition that we heard earlier when they first started when they matter of fact, first off, peace to you, Mujasa. I like to at least
Peace,
greet you
bro.
first.
Good afternoon. Yeah.
We came up with the actual definition. That's why I was getting a little triggered earlier. And thanks to RP for that topic. It was very clear. Y'all go ahead, and when I find it, I'll just cut somebody off.
Okay, so when
Yeah,
and
I've
Brad,
said
this
it.
ain't a question for Brass, but this is for everybody. Because I'm sorry, I'm late for the conversation, just getting off of work.
Here it is. I
Um,
got it.
okay, go ahead.
It says Pan-Africanism is the political, cultural, and social philosophy that all people of African descent on the continent and in the diaspora share a common history and destiny, and therefore should unite in pursuit of freedom, dignity, and self-determination. Let me just give you the key points. The unity. Africans everywhere are one people despite colonial borders or slavery scattering. The liberation, originally focused on ending slavery, colonialism, and racism. Solidarity, cooperations across nations and across the diaspora, Africa, Americas, Caribbean, Europe, and the self determination. Control of African resources, culture, and political future by Africans themselves 100%.
Okay, and where does do you know where that one's grounded from? Where that definition
Uh,
comes from?
I'll go get it from you. I asked for a sourced one so we can get it.
Okay, because I
Definition
believe
pull up
the
will
re
be pretty much similar to the same thing you just read.
right. The reason why I ask is because I believe and from the terminology that I'm hearing from what you read, Brother Brass, that's the 1974 Sixth Pan-African Conference definition.
Okay.
Okay. So, and I'm not, don't quote me on that. I believe, if I remember correct, that's that definition. There were 7 different conferences before that, starting in 1900.
Okay.
Henry Sylvester Williams was the first one in 1900 with this Pan-African Association to pull people together under a conference. Everything sequentially after that was a Congress. With each consecutive Congress that they had, 1919, 1921, 1923, I don't remember the other two after that. I think it was like 27, 28, or 45. They were trying to define what Pan-Africanism is, how it looks, who's involved, what it look what it manifested into, the pragmatic reality of it, and if there was an economic reality to it. And most of the first few congresses that they had, Pan-African congresses, was in Europe. It wasn't even in the States, it wasn't even in the Caribbeans, it was in Europe. And the first 5 get-togethers that folks was coming together associated with Africa, but there was very few diplomats that came from Africa. Because the original foundation, from what my research has taught me, is that the theoretical concept of Pan Africanism had everything to do with reuniting African diasporas together under this banner, coming from the islands to the States. Because Henry Williams was going back and forth between the States and Trinidad and Caribbeans and different spots and Europe. And so his grounding understanding and a few people that influenced him was that the Africans that experienced enslavement was the ones to lead this campaign and banner of Pan-Africanism. We talked about this about 3 or 4 months ago. And so we have to look at what they were trying to develop and trying to figure out, because there was never fully a defined, this is Pan-Africanism that came out. And you had different people that walked away with like, well, I believe I got a good concept of what Pan-Africanism is, only to be challenged by somebody else because there was never really a consensus on it. But one of the things that I tend to hold on to, and I feel like C. Dot was kind of saying that, and Psycho was saying this too, but I always add this element in, is what Walter Rodney framed for us. And Walter Rodney always essentially said that when we talk about Pan-Africanism, we have to put it in a non-formal way to understand the formality of it. What that means is that, when did it exist in a non-formal way? When was it a form of resistance where it was practical and we see it, before it became the theoretical and the concept? And his grounding reality in his writings was that Pan-Africanism exists before it became a term elicited by lawyers and baristas and legalists and stuff like that. It was the idea that these different various of Africans in the Caribbeans, in the States, in Brazil, Colombia, they found ways to come to one common objective, to fight off this system, to fight off the master, to get through this particular region and kill this overseer. Yeah, you might be from Ive, you might be Yoruba, you might be Oye, you might be Dahomey, but in this particular geographic reality that we're in, we have to find some unity and beat off this force. So he always said that the slave insurrection was our first informal reality of Pan-Africanism. And he held to, through all of his writings, he said, you cannot separate Pan-Africanism from the necessity of resisting imperialism, European imperialism. He said you can't separate the two. So whether you're talking about economics, whether you're talking about social, he never even got into the talking about culture. He didn't believe that Pan-Africanism associated to cultural connections. He said it's a political objective. You come together and your goal is to fight against European imperialism. Once that's completed, then you can have conversations of nation building and power development and political infrastructure. But your goal is to kill that white man. And so when you've seen some of the conceptual formations of it in the Pan-African Association in the first conferences all the way to the Congress, the themes that they kept was that we are trying to create networks of unifications to push up against the Brits, the Portuguese, the Spaniards, the Americans. That was and that's the piece that I mentioned to y'all a few months ago. In any type of conversation we're having around Pan-Africanism, if it doesn't keep the unity along with fighting the oppressive system, then we're losing sight of Pan-Africanism.
Can
And
I
we introduced in Pan-Africanism to the continent. We introduced
Hey,
it in a theoretical and conceptual way. It
Yes,
may
I,
have
sir.
I,
already
I
existed in the
appreciate that.
informal
It
way,
started on the
but
same
we
shit.
introduced it. So what my brother Corey is elevating is
Trump
that
at the
what
bit?
does
I
that
gotta say,
mean in terms of our conversation with brothers coming from the continent? Well, for one, we got to get brothers and sisters from the continent on board with what Pan-Africanism is, because most of them don't even know what it is. It's over there now, but to a degree, most people don't even have a conceptual idea or framework of what Pan-Africanism is. It got over there from 1970s going forward. That's when, by the sixth conference, we start seeing or the fifth conference, we start seeing different people, Du Bois, Padmore, Nkrumah, Jomo Kenyatta. Then they start, they was a part of that piece. But the conferences before that, it barely included and involved a lot of the diplomats from the continent. So there's a lot of education that we have to have around what the themes of Pan-Africanism is, but it always entailed the unification in order to fight white imperialism. And I'll land there.
I'm gonna say this to you, Mujasi. I, I,
what
I
Walnut?
would have a comeback for that. I think what you said was amazing. I have no comeback. I do have one. You had I'm gonna just know. I just think I appreciate the line. I appreciate what you said. That was just fine. Go ahead.
Likewise, brother. Likewise. Go ahead,
Okay,
brother.
so before I quit, I forget my point. I do, of course, always appreciate how well your points are articulated. So one thing that concerns me a little bit is like, so all of those events of resistance are being like now being like co-opted by Pan-Africanism,
Mm-hmm.
as if those prior events had this Pan-African goal in mind, right? So like when I'm I think that they work just fine as events or moments of resistance. But I think once you attach the label of those were events or moments of Pan-Africanism, I don't know if that thing needs that particular directive, or they did that for this behind that, right? Because we can look at those same events of resistance and come up with our own thing, right? It doesn't have to be included in Pan-Africanism at all. You get what I'm saying? But if I include those events in Pan-Africanism, like now I gotta be Pan-African just to be like a part of those events. But like so like that's why I feel like there's maybe something else going on. Obviously not you, but like I don't think that that's the way us being capable of producing ideas based on our current environment need to actually have you know these other terms and baggage that are way older than us and not exactly a part of our problem in some cases.
You said you can't focus on America, though.
I said I can't focus on America.
See, like people keep missing the picture here. Pan Africanism, they hear Africa and Pan Africanism, and they keep thinking this ideology is about the land. It's about the
It's not
people.
about the land, it's about the people.
It's about the people. So you can focus on the African diaspora wherever you at. Like it's not like people get too hyper focused on Africa. It's just stating that we have all African descent and we all have common goals and interests that we need to work together to achieve.
And we got to
That's the most
emphasize
simplistic. That's the most simplistic definition I can give you.
that's it right there. Please, let's emphasize what Psycho just said. Pan-Africanism at its roots, when it first was conceptualized, written down, talked about, organized, fundraised to get people to talk about it, the African part of Pan-Africanism was talking about the people, particularly the diasporic people, the people. It had very little pragmatic political association to the land. Yes, it recognized that these group of peoples was from that land. It was about the people. It was about when Henry Sylvester Williams visited the United States and got to meet Henry McNeill Turner and got to glean and learn from Booker T. Washington. Like, it was about the people. It was about him understand John Raymond Thomas in Trinidad and experiencing people in Haiti and different ports. Like, he saw the people. It was the people that he was politically organizing around, not the landmass. So I think it's helping us if we can start thinking about Pan-Africanism from its thematic roots, that it had everything to do with organizing people on
With
around
black
a
people.
certain objective. Whether no, we're gonna shift black because I'm not. We're gonna shift blackness away, but we're a group of people that was oppressed under a certain system. That's what Pan-Africanism was rooted in. We could talk about the black moniker and identity piece a little later. We'll get to that.
Hey, can I say something?
Yes, sir.
I was gonna say like it is me, like you know what I'm saying. If I would be a pan anything, you know what I'm saying, wouldn't even represent the totality of Africa, Niger Congo. Majority of the diaspora come from Niger Congo speaking populations, like them kind of like, you know what I'm saying, them kind of only Africans, you know, that we identify with for real. Like I deal with them Africans first, if anything, you know what I'm saying, the majority, you know, so we even the heartbeat of the continent.
Yeah, much respect. I hear you on that one. Like, we can't go back and change why they chose Africa at that time, but I agree with you. It's, as we define it a little bit more.
If I wanted to start something new of my own, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
I would slow Niger Congo, Niger Cadofian populations. That's that's who that's the Africans we come from, nation, language we spoke, and even the creolization of the diaspora. We all come from places. You know what I'm saying? Even like you know what I'm saying? Even if I wasn't African American, which I'm partially African American, and I'm partially Afro Cubano. Even if I was just fully Cuban, that would be the African or Afro, representation that my lineage come from, Niger Congo people. Even my girl, my woman is Afro Colombian. Them the type of Africans, you know what I'm saying? Afro Niger Congo population. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I'm trying to make an observation, right? If I oversimplify a lot of what y'all are saying, C dot, psycho, some degree what you're saying, Johnson, not a lot less of them still, but like that sounds like the BRICS organization, right? Where they would be trying to develop relationships to where they can figure out a way to build their economies despite of all the Western influences around. Like, is that like the short version of what the ideal Pan-African running full speed look like?
Networking is huge, and I would say networking is one of the main factors. Like that's the whole purpose of identifying as the diaspora, with the diaspora and connecting. So for networking purposes, right? Mainly, not outside of like relocating. Like it has more to do with networking and building these bonds and finding people that you could do business with, wherever, like, cause if you build businesses here, you need trade, right? You need to be able to trade and capital. You need resources. These resources could be right there in Africa or Haiti or Jamaica, wherever, right? And these networks can help. It's always good to have networks outside of FWAs in this country, right? Because we depended on these FWAs and these Asians and these Arabs and everything else to build up all our capital. When we can try to build up capital with people throughout the diaspora, we ain't got to live there, but we could get the networks going up.
No, I feel you, right? But the whole point, the whole driving force behind the network, right, would be to undermine or to eventually like overcome the influence of Western power. Like that would be the whole need for a network at all, right?
Yes.
Okay. I think we've at least arrived, right? So so this is so this ultimately ends up in like how do we overcome Western influence? And so when I'm thinking of that, like when you like it, from what I could tell, like the closer you actually get to doing that, like the more difficult it actually becomes. So as we were saying, in one scenario, you could be a business owner and just do business, in Africa and not have to like you. Of course, you're still paying taxes to America, right? Like in whatever particular taxes or whatever else they have to put on, your product or that country, blah, blah, like you still paying it. So like you really, by actually doing the business, you don't undermine it at all. You just operate within it.
As far as I'm confused about what you're saying, like as far as like
Well,
saying we
in
still
other words,
operate
you
system.
operate in it, but at a higher level. That's what you do if you
You
were
talking about like capitalism,
incorporated.
like still you talking about
Yeah,
still like partaking in capitalism?
yeah. I mean, unless you're getting around the paying taxes part. If
Well,
you
I mean,
if you cool with the paying the taxes, like you're actually not circumventing this Western influence.
I
You're
mean,
using the money that you're getting from the jobs
you're
of
going to get
Western influence. Okay.
taxes is global, right? Like I don't care what you're doing, you're going to pay taxes. That's what these tariffs is all about, right? And Donald Trump hitting all these other countries up with
But
tariffs and everything.
what logic
Like,
is saying is
you got to deal with
as
taxes.
long as we're paying them to the United States. I guess what you're saying, logic is we would never get completely past any
Well,
sort of Western
I'm trying to
influence,
get him.
right?
I'm trying to get him to answer because I think that there is a scenario when they get around it, right? And
Oh,
and,
okay.
and maybe maybe I could just hear Mujasa if you agree or disagree that ultimately you would be trying to get around it. I don't actually see how that I guess without being in America and like
Yeah, I think they'll.
participating in BRICS, I don't know
Yeah,
how that actually happens,
you
right?
know,
Like as far I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah.
is
Oh, you talking about
Pan-Africanism
we join
today.
BRICS? Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Psycho.
No, I just understood. I think what he was trying to say. You trying to say if we join BRICS? You saying?
Yeah. Like I'm saying, like it. I'm kind of comparing it to that, right? As in a network of like people, businesses, economies. They're literally doing that in order to undermine America, right? So
Right.
like I'm kind of comparing it to that because
They still getting taxed,
I
though.
asked earlier if that's what it looks like running at full speed.
But
I
they
didn't get
still
no
getting
pushback.
taxed, though. They still get taxed.
Okay, you talking about bricks are still getting taxed?
Yeah.
Okay,
Get taxed. So like so taxes, if you're talking about, like, you can't avoid taxes. Every country is going to enforce the tariffs to a certain degree.
okay,
So you're gonna have to
okay.
deal with that regardless.
Right. So, but they're still together. The whole reason of them even doing that is to get as far away as they can, and
Right.
eventually
Right.
completely
Eventually.
become
Right.
from under. Right. Right. That's the whole idea.
But
Mhm.
no.
So they're
See,
paying taxes now, but the whole idea is to never pay taxes,
well,
at least to
see,
America.
Some logic
yeah,
that wouldn't be universal. I guarantee that. I guarantee everyone on this panel who's a pro Pan African is going to tell you that that's not a universal concept, though, bro. You know,
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I'm asking a good one right here. Psycho say that, yeah, like he
Well,
eventually
I mean,
get completely away from
See,
he's saying
yeah,
that.
I would say that's the end game, yeah. But I mean, that's a long process. Again,
it.
like that's a long
like
process.
I
Definitely
don't
a
even
long process. So not our generation, not next generation, probably
right.
not even maybe
That
one or
generation after
two,
that either,
but
probably.
but
Well,
eventually like Africa
but
or somewhere
would
else.
everybody on here who's a pro Pan African agree that that would be the objective, though?
Hey,
Because
That's
if
the
that
thing.
was the
Well,
objective,
I
y'all should
wanted
have
to get an
answered that
objective
hours
and then
ago.
hear from Mujasi. That's what I
two
wanted to do.
seconds.
End
2 seconds.
game,
I gotta pay the
if you
bills.
was
2
asking
seconds.
what the
2
end
seconds.
game
Okay,
would
Psycho.
be,
Psycho.
yeah,
listen,
I
Psycho.
would say
hold
that.
on.
Oh, Brad's
Gotta
was
pay the
trying
Psycho.
to say
bills.
something, guys.
Yep,
Psycho.
pay the
Real quick.
bills.
I'm trying because I gotta do my moderating job. For those that's in the chat, and we'll go right back to you, Psycho. For those that's in the chat, we are live right now. Y'all complain about the replays, but we are live right now. If you get in the Discord right now, for the low price of $3.99, you will literally be able to participate in this conversation on YouTube versus complain when you get to see this show later. We are live right now. Go ahead, Psycho. Go ahead, finish your statement, brother.
Damn, I forgot what I was about to say, to be honest with you.
I apologize. I knew that was going to happen. I apologize. Hey,
You know,
shouts to
you
you,
know,
though.
I
The
think
other night, you had like 300 motherfuckers watching. Shouts to you. Shouts to you. I forgot what the conversation was, but that shit brought. I don't know what you was talking about, but it had to been good because you had about 300 people in there. So shouts to you once again.
I forgot what I was talking about last show. I forgot. I forgot.
Yeah, we were. I was. So you had just got me on the paying taxes, right? And I said right, but the whole objective was to never be paying taxes. And then I kind of like I kind of just put the ball back in the court a little bit, pause, and I said, so eventually, if it's to get completely from up under Western influence, like you wouldn't be here for that.
I was saying like the end game of all Pan-Africans would tell you that's going to be the end game. Now, again, I know I'm realistic about it, right? I'm not one of these fantasy guys, right? I don't try to sell people snake oil. I ain't going to tell you it took us over 400 years to get in this situation. I can't tell you no 2-week plan to get us up out of it. Nor can anybody else. They selling you bullshit if they is trying to sell you that, right? Like this is a long process that's going to have to take place. I just want my generation to get the ball rolling. I understand it takes many generations to get this thing going, and I got my own views of how I feel like the best way to go about doing it. Some people agree, some people don't. That's cool. But everybody got they solutions based whatever, whether it's going back to Africa, whether it's building up in their own areas, whether it be Haiti, Jamaica, here in America, which what I push, whatever the case may be. But the end game is always to build up black people, because again, this flag right here is red, right? This red, black, and green. This is not a nation flag, right? This flag is not attached to a nation, right? You got some nations that carry these colors, but this flag is not centered to one nation, right? This flag represents a people, right? It's all about a people. So as long as people are uplifting, being uplifted and fighting for their liberation globally, I support every nation that's doing it. I'm focused on what this nation is doing right here, because this is where I'm at. And so this is my main focus right here. But I support any nation, Jamaica, Haiti, Nigeria, wherever the case may be, pushing for their reparations, whatever the case may be, or getting the white man off their land, all that. Like I support all that, right? But but again, we got to focus on. I agree that we got to focus on where we at. And where we at right here is America, but that don't make you not Pan-African just because you want to focus on America. That's
absolutely.
I'm trying to let people know it's not an either or.
Yeah. Dr. Greg Carr says that we have to think globally but act locally. We have to think globally but act locally. His point was that, yes, we can be aware of what's going on in Senegal. We can be aware of what's going on in Burkina Faso. We could be aware of what's going on in the Congo, in Trinidad, in Brazil. We could be aware of all of these places. We could be aware of what's going on in Mississippi, in DC, what may happen in Chicago. But we have to act locally. And locally is even in our own nation state, sometimes even in our own city and township. And that's where the practical pieces of how we manifest Pan-Africanism is. And sometimes when we look at some of these earlier people who were theoreticians and practitioners and activists in Pan-Africanism, they were lawfully, in their words, logic. They didn't have full concepts on how they viewed and understood Pan-African. They did, but it's like sometimes they left a lot to their imagination, because they couldn't put things into pragmatic terms. I remember reading a piece from Rodney. I think he said it in a speech. I don't know if he actually said it in a book, but he said something to the effect that Pan-Africanism is not a luxury, it's a necessity. And without unity, Africa will remain at the mercy of imperialism. He said, with unity, The scattered people of Africa can transform the condition of oppression into a common project of liberation. What he meant by common project of liberation can be interpreted in 15 different ways. And there's no one exact way, but there's no grounded way. Because liberation can look like cooperative economics. Liberation can look like buying up land and creating space for us to have our own residency. Liberation can look like us finding ways to have financial wealth within this system. Liberation can look like Caribbean and states and continentals being able to work together in a project for cultural development. The project of liberation took many different forms, and it created the opportunity for snake salesmen, the snake oil salesmen and folks to come in to exploit it. And so I think that's where it gets complex. That I'll land right here, Brother Brass. I think that's where it complex is, because Pan-Africanism at its point right now is just as elusive and could be just as grounded as talking about democracy.
Can I say something very quickly?
I'll land right there.
We're gonna be real quick. Like Martin Luther King, like y'all gonna beat me up. I already know it. Martin Luther King said that like injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Man, if that ain't one of the coldest things like you ever heard, bro, I don't know. I think basically anything less than that, right? If it's not somewhere high on the agenda, like you looking for a cycle at that point. Like you're not looking to end anything. You're just looking to tip the scales. And like everything after that is justification for it, to me. Like I'm trying to help with the rationalization of the justification. But that's what I believe it is. And I'd like for y'all to be able to tell me I'm wrong. But I mean, I don't see it. Help me out. Maybe I'm tripping. But go ahead, Brass.
When I listen to people bring up Greg Carr and think local, it's a great statement. But one of the challenges I've noticed with Pan-Africanism, and it seems like we're critiquing Pan-Africanism solely, but it's just that's what we're talking about today. Think globally, act locally is a good statement, but in the U.S. integrated system, acting locally will usually put you in that double bind of integration. So in an integrated system, what ends up happening is, and this is where you lose the Pan-Africanism, and it can't be all in the United States of America. If you're trying to get any kind of real change, it can't be all black people, all this, all that. You can't do that. Not in these United States, because what happens is you'll end up working with the systems that are literally built to work against you. So like, for example, when I get into in all of the years of basically almost 2 decades of politics, you kind of begin to get the frustration of, well, yeah, your main goal of the politician is to get elected. It's not necessarily to affect change, and if it is, it's to affect change that'll get them reelected. So when you're saying think globally, act locally, then it kind of like a contradiction when I hear it has to be everything black, because in this integrated system, I don't think that that's realistic. That's just my opinion. I think there's ways that there are certain bills that you can put forward. When I think globally, think locally, I mean, go fight for the mayor that you want. Go fight for the police chief that you want. Go fight for the school district. The superintendent that you want. And then work with those guys directly in situations to help black people, but just understand that that system, even if you get the mayor you want. Right now, I'm pissed off because with the mayor elect and the governor elect that we have, that's the popular people that are going in for those offices. We help them get elected, but they're not going to be able to really do a lot specifically for us underneath this banner, because then the question of funding. So I agree with think globally, act locally, but just remember, if you're trying to do this, act locally just in a colloquial black sense, and try to do it without the Europeans or white people, whatever you want to call it, or do it without other races, you're gonna run yourself into a lot of walls where you're gonna kind of create a ceiling for the success you're looking for.
Yeah. The reason there's a piece of me that I agree with you to there's elements that I agree with you on, because when I look at the history of the first conference and the consecutive congresses afterwards, they were doing it, well, I would say the intellectuals of that time were designing and convening pan-African concessions within European settings. Most of them was in Europe before it went to Africa. And so it's like, there's a piece where I'm like, what you're saying can be flexed out and backed up in history, because we didn't begin intellectualizing around Pan-Africanism within Black spaces, African spaces. We didn't do it in diasporic spaces. Some of it was funded by Europeans. So I think there's some pieces in that I do find in accordance with you. Go ahead, Brother Cycle. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, you good. No, I was gonna say that's when you gotta think outside the box, right? Because you do have to work within the system to a certain degree, right? Because it's the system that we under, unless you're just talking about anarchy and just flipping everything over upside down, which we're not ready to do any of that. So we have to figure out ways to work within the system to make it work for us, right? Me myself, I'm not opposed to making money off of white people, right? I'm not into putting money into white people's pockets, but I'm not opposed to making money off of white people. I always say that Black people need to turn around and do the same thing that every other demographic does to us in our communities. We need to sit up here and find out how to make the best surfing board on the planet, take our asses to every beach around the country and sell these white boys every surfboard, every little I don't know, whatever they into. Because since some Black people walk through the suburbs to see what the white kids is into nowadays, and whatever they into, figure out how to make the best thing of it. We ain't gotta sell it to our kids. I don't want to brainwash them with all this crackodoses, but we definitely can make a whole lot of money off of them. That's what the Asians do. Asians send they go riding through our community, see what it is that we into. Next thing you know, they making calls to China, they bootlegging it, and then they shipping it out here and they selling it to us for half off. Right, and we making a whole bag off of us, right? That's what all these communities do. They make bags off of us, right? That's how come the black dollar don't circulate, because everybody figured out how to make money off of us. We haven't figured out how to make money off of them, right? So I'm not opposed to making money off any Asians.
What about with Psycho?
I'm cool.
I keep hearing you say off, but what about with? You keep saying off. What about with?
What do you mean?
You keep saying make money off of them. I'm saying, what about making money with them?
I support hiring Black people myself. That's just me. But I mean, I'm not going to sit. I mean, you got to go within the rules, because you got discrimination laws and stuff like that. But let's put it this way. Let me ask you a question, Brad. If you got let's say you got a Nigerian applying for a job, right? You're the boss, right? You got one job opening that you're trying to fill. You got a Nigerian applying for a job and a German applying for a job. They both got equal qualifications, right? Both graduated from the same school, same year, everything, right? So now they both applying for your job, equal qualifications, just like I said. Which one are you going to hire?
I'm gonna hire whoever's Black, whoever's the closest to Black. If all things being equal, if it's not a question of one is bad or one is whatever, I'm gonna hire somebody that's Black, because in this particular system, that's what they do.
Yeah. You know what, Brad? Congratulations. You're a Pan-African. I'll talk to y'all later. I got to get ready to go.
No question.
Hey, I consider myself. Hey, I consider us whatever I practice is Pan-Africanism. You know what I'm saying?
That's fine.
If it was a Nigerian between, I'm gonna pick the Nigerian over the Ethiopian.
Right? No question. You crazy?
Yeah,
I was about to agree with that. I don't know about that one, but hold on. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm gonna try. Just saying if the qualifications was equal, but I've always been a person that, me hiring unqualified people, just because even white people, I think C. Dot left, but That's that whole statement that Hope Bryant was talking about. They're killing themselves with this attack on diversity because it ain't enough educated
Mm-hmm.
white people in finance to
Mm-hmm.
drive the gross domestic product. So unless they plan on just pumping out all of these white people that's going to be working on the GDP, they better get to some diversity and allow everybody that's qualified to help keep America where it's supposed to be. So, but that's neither here nor there. But Reggie, brother Reggie, just came in here.
Yeah, that's
What's
what I
going on,
Okay.
said.
brother Reggie?
Can I make one last statement before I log off? I
No,
gotta
go
jump
ahead,
off in a
bro.
second.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
got to get
yeah.
out of here too.
Okay. And I appreciate that piece that you said about the difficulty of, what Dr. Carr deposits for us because it is. And I'm the first to tell you, like, as a person who subscribed to Pan-Africanism and practices in the work that I do, it's difficult. It's complicated. It's confusing. It requires a lot of understanding, compassion, research. It requires some investigation and sometimes reevaluation of my previous conceived thoughts about Pan-Africanism.
Hmm.
And when I look at what Dr. Carr says, and I'll close with this, it the way I manifest that and understand that is that I look at the dynamic, the demographics of the Twin Cities here. We got Somalis here. We got Liberians. I want to say we have the highest concentration of Liberians in the nation. We got Nigerians here, particularly Yorubas and Igbos. Um, we have people from Sierra, my brothers from and sisters from Sierra Leone. We got a strong Ethiopian cadre, and I think we got a Professor Mbe. I think he got a good family of people from Tanzania too. A few brothers and sisters from Tanzania, and so one of the things that I made the assumption with is that, oh, they're here, they're all Pan-African, and this is like 20 years ago, and they all understand it. And I found out that none of them had any concept of what it means to be a Pan-Africanism. And that was my ignorance at that time. And so as I got a little better at understanding what this is and really started going to the source of how this thing was created, I realized that Somalis, Sierra Leone's, Nigerians, a lot of them, they had to become Black. And the misnomer, and this is why I was saying Peas, we can have that conversation later, is because some of them come over here and think just based on them getting citizenship and the categorization that they have to check that they're Black. And one of the things that I had to introduce with some of my mentors and people who taught me is that no, the political framework that we're trying to orientate you to in Blackness helps you to understand what Pan-Africanism is. But that's a teaching process. But before I can get you there, I need to understand what happened to Somalia to where y'all start showing up in 1994 and 95. I need to know what happened in Liberia during that civil war to where we end up creating a whole city for a lot of the Liberian refugees. I needed to understand how are some of the middle class of Tanzanians coming in here out of my Nigerian brothers. What road are they? What red carpet is being rolled out? What's the dynamics of that's happening in Africa that's causing this transplant of continentals coming here? That's thinking globally, understanding the geopolitical reality of that, understanding what's happening economically. What is the relationship between the US and these continents? How are they been set up to be the new Black minorities here in Minnesota? And then from that position, I can act locally. Then we can make moves to understand how you understand my social historical reality and how I understand yours. How do we have some alignment politically and what we don't have alignment in politically? What's our common bond in order to push against the whiteness of Minnesota? Minnesota is the Mississippi of the North. So it requires a deep congenial relationship between these Africans that a lot of them don't come here with. They have no idea with. A lot of Liberians would tell you to this day, before they got on the ship, they was told, don't get around those niggas when you get to Minneapolis. Stay away from the niggas.
I
And
knew
they
you. I knew
they
you
was
were
trans
Somalian,
right.
yo.
Yeah, yeah. Somalis was told the same thing, and so there's an educational piece that has to happen, that requires us to think globally, And then when we get to now start pushing up against the Board of Education so that our brothers and sisters, our Muslim brothers can have space to pray in the schools that the schools didn't want to allow them at first, that's a local action. To be able to get support that's happening on police chief for us for them to have some representation when their police are now beating on them, that's a local action. These are things that we start to organize locally where we start to see, oh, our Black objective is to push up against the white system. That's how they become politically Black. But for me personally, I don't give them Blackness just because on paper they have to check Black African American to get that loan, to get that award, or get that application done. I don't give them Blackness. No, no. Political Blackness is a training. That's a whole reorientation to the framework of how you see yourself in America. But you're not just Black. You're Somali. You're Nigerian. You're Tanzanian. You're this and that, but you're not Black. But when we start having more conversations about what this African conversation and networking looks like, then we're moving into more of a Pan-African conversation where we can act locally, not land there.
Boy, I knew you from Minnesota, boy. You said the Somalis out there wild, boy.
Yeah, they cool, man. They cool. They my peoples, but they struggle sometimes. They struggle.
That's Somali homeless, boy. They some street dudes. Real, they wild out there.
We actually got a little bit of both. Some of them, because of the situation they come from, they in the streets, and others are very corporate. Very business oriented.
I'm just saying, you know how long people or immigrants been in the culture where they intertwined to where they, they be in the street history too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Y'all got Somalian politicians.
We do. One of them running for mayor in Minneapolis right now, and catching a whole lot of white, like being exposed to white supremacy. Some of them ain't. They're not familiar with how white folks act. And so, like, one of them run for office. We had a police officer, I want to say 9 years ago, accidentally killed a white woman who was approaching the police car. It was a Somali brother was a police officer. He killed the white woman, and he was persecuted. And that was the first time, Somalis got politicized.
He got 15 years.
Yeah, about 15 years ago. Yeah, I knew it was some time ago.
He
And
got 15 years.
He got 15 years, exactly. That was the first time. This is me saying on record. Now, I could be wrong because I don't know every Somali in the Twin Cities. But I feel like on a global, on a local level, and a mass level of understanding, I feel like that's the first time Somalis ran into a national incident where they realize how whiteness views them in a spectrum of race. Because I think they've had the carpet rolled out for them for so long that when one of them get into an incident where there was just cause for what happened, they found out, oh, white people actually think of us not as this.
Yeah, I heard an incident where a Somalian, I don't know if he was a Somalian dude, he was like a gang member. He killed the African American police officer.
Here in Minnesota?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that situation. It could have happened. I'm not familiar with it.
But that incident where he killed the white woman, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman, it was a national thing. It became national. And he didn't know. He thought that he would be protected by the police himself.
That's right. That's right.
He was so far from him that the whole community got whiplash and put in place to realize that, dude, you do not control the narrative here. And not because they put you in certain position mean anything. Like OJ. OJ was white for many years until he wasn't. People forget that OJ was white, Well, OJ was living the white lifestyle in Calabata. White people, white lawyers, white friends, white orgy parties, until he wasn't.
Yo. So Mujasi, right? So how do you feel? I mean, I don't know if you had a whole bunch of time, but I'm not going to be on here too much longer myself. But like, how do you feel about this ultimate goal being basically to starve out Western influence, to be able to operate economically without it? How do you feel about that? Hello, did my shit go out?
No. Can I make a few comments?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Logic.
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay, okay. I
I,
said,
I
yeah, I
really
don't.
want to hear from you, brother Reg. Now I want to stay. Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead,
real
Mujasi.
quickly, brother Reggie. I don't know how much I subscribe to that. I don't know if I can't even imagine that. I don't know if I know I would never live to see that day to where,
But
the
that
reparations.
wouldn't be in the forefront of your mind as far as the plan.
No, not at all.
You,
Not at
you're
all.
you're not even strategizing in order to make that particular reality
Nope.
easier.
Nope. Nope.
I didn't think so. I didn't think so. I didn't think so. I think a lot of people in those meetings that you were talking to me about are. I believe so.
Mm.
And the funny thing is, it's happening right there, and you don't see that. I'm being a little like I'm overshooting. I don't know what's happening, but if I'm hearing it correctly, I think a lot of people have a lot of undertone in there. And then once you kind of get a little further, you got to start asking, okay, how are we going to do that? Now, this is just a fair question, but go ahead, brother Reg, unless you want to say something.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
not
good.
going to be. I am not going to be long. So
No,
I
floor
was.
yours, floor yours.
I appreciate the. I think that y'all gaining some great thinkers, or at least finding them, and we're hearing their voices, and so I appreciate the conversation. So as a student of Dr. Clark, um, and read his work and participated as a reader. Um, Dr. Clark in his last book, he was critical of Pan-Africanism, and a lot of people, what they do is they jump from fads, right? So and they miss things, and so um, Dr. Clark was also a part of the organization Afro American Unity, right? And so he was thinking, as my brother said, locally, right? Locally, statewide. We are letting our opponents frame the conversation about what we really think. We were uh, we moved from Negroes and we moved from black to a certain extent. Well, black was always a unity thing globally. When we were acting as black, it was in the 60s, in the 70s, right? That was a kind of a unity kind of designation. Um, and then there was the Black nationalist argument as well as the Pan African argument. There were all those arguments in. What we unfortunately do is let our opponents again frame the conversation because we were first on a track of trying to create organizations across America that was uh, that would organize themselves under a banner of uh, African unity, right? Meaning as another word for black. But now, as my brother said, think locally, right? But how can I say? Well, but act locally and think globally, right? So we have to be careful about allowing our opponents frame the conversation. So they are attacking Pan Africanism, which is just an idea, right? But really, our actions were around the United States, right? Strengthening the United States. Then we got into another mode, which I've talked about a lot, where we figured out we could take cities. And I don't want to continue that argument because I think we already talked about that. But be careful about letting our opponents attack Pan Africanism and label people like Umar Johnson, who has never written on Pan-Africanism, never been in an organization that I know of Pan-Africanism. He becomes the poster boy of Pan-Africanism, and that's absolutely wrong. He took a trip with Professor Small, came back. Now he's Papa. When he was there, when Dr. Jeffries and them left their guard down, and they were in a particular meeting, he was able to talk to some African leaders, and without permission, right? He got up and he said some things that Dr. Leonard Jeffries, who uh, participated in WADU, right? Which it was a kind of a Pan-African, an active Pan-African kind of new new element, right? That they have formed to kind of like really centralize it, right? Over particular regions. And I think so we're letting people attack us based without understanding history. And that's just a strategy that they have been doing for a while. Unfortunately, we do have to organize ourselves in organizations in our cities, states, and counties, right? And then with that, we can see the every city, state, county has different demographics and different issues. We need a strategy that is going to be kind of how can I say ubiquitous across all those places, but at the same time understand the diversity of different particular areas. We haven't, it's because we don't have a plan. Well, in these African populations that are here, right? What they do is, since there's no plan, but they're going to float around their best interest, right? They're going to float around their best interest for survival, for group survival. So we have to do
I'd like to be
understand,
able to.
huh?
Go ahead. I'd like to be able to, talk with you. Go ahead. Go ahead. Finish what you're saying.
No. Every time there's a pause, then I'll let you. If it's acceptable.
No, I
Hey,
mean, you keep going. Like I'm just asking you to like, so I could be able to summarize everything that you said. Instead of it making even more stuff that I now. I'm trying to be able to talk with you about what you're saying. Go ahead.
right. So that's why I stopped, because if there's a point where if there's
Okay.
somebody
Okay.
that I know has a particular point,
Right.
I'll
Right.
stop.
So right, you were saying that people are attacking y'all, Pan Africans, without knowing the history. And I don't think it's necessarily. I don't believe it's an attack, to be honest with you. And a lot of the other stuff that you said, um, I would have to see that more as Umar Johnson announced himself as the king of Pan Africanism, and no one from Pan Africanism denied it. Like that. That's what I see as how it happened. Like nobody came up and was like, "Nah, what he doing is wrong. He off the chain." Nobody did that, as far as I know, other than
And,
like
I admit,
maybe people somewhat saying it around this neighborhood, but not like getting on the bighorn, being like, "This is not Pan Africanism." I ain't seen that.
well,
But I
a
seen
lot
him
of
at the
scholars,
Breakfast Club, right? You know what I'm saying that. But
we don't
neither here
have
nor
the
there. This
power.
is so.
So here's the
This is what
problem.
I'd like for you. This is what I'd like for you to reply to, right? So
Okay,
because
so
I'm kind of go ahead. Go ahead.
so here's the dynamics. Some people are pushed in front of the camera. They're pushed on these big shows like the Breakfast Club, because that talks to a majority of people who really don't study, or pushed on Vlad TV, right? Because a lot of people watch Vlad and they shouldn't, or be pushed on some of these uh, um, bigger black talk shows, and some people are not. I agree. Uh, I agree. As soon as Umar Johnson started talking about Pan-Africanism and he's Papa. I agree. But the scholars who know best, I have found out that they're resistant to get into public debates because it affects their livelihood. So these nasty public debates actually affect whether they become chairmen and their positions. And our Black intelligentsia, for the most part, they fail, right? They actually fail. Then there's the people like myself who are students, who are independent and not academia. I don't get the support from my people when I make criticisms, but yet my criticisms or become become the record that I do criticize. So I have said just now, you want to. Well, Umar Johnson is not a Pan Africanist. Umar Johnson went to a few countries in Africa for his.
Actually, I don't want to fight you on that. I agree. I don't think that he's certainly not the Pan African that you're familiar with. I'm not disagreeing with. Right. I like to be honest. Like whatever, however you separate what real Pan Africanism from him, I just agree. Right. So like here's a larger point. I guess maybe I wanted you to say more about the other stuff I was saying.
There is
So
no
like
Pan African.
let me give you a quick analogy. Say you have this is the best way I could think of to do it. Just follow me for a second. Say you have a guy who wants to approach this lady, right? And the guy thinks to himself, I need to lose weight before I approach this lady, right? So he goes, loses the weight, finally gets the courage to approach the lady. He approached the lady, and the lady says, I like fat guys, right? So he doesn't get what he wants. So he actually, this is why it fits, right? Because if it's not about starving out America, I know, follow me what I'm saying here, then this whole middle trip here just needs to be something completely different, right? Like you assume that this connection like possibly leads to starving out America, right? But you don't.
I'm not hearing you. You're talking. I'm not hearing you. Is everybody else hearing him? Because I'm not hearing him.
Can't hear him either.
Yeah, so he's underwater. So we can't hear you. Something's wrong with your mic. Okay. So while he gets his mic up, here, cut me off. What I tried to say is that Pan-Africanism is just an idea, right? And so it's not really a construct. It's a forewant that we want. In the meantime, local areas, like for example, in America, America is a place of Black people. Africa, different regions in Africa, that's separate. That's their own local efforts. Our what we have allowed, unfortunately, is people to choose who are not part of these movements to choose these labels. And in Pan-Africanism itself is complicated because there is a socialist part of it, and there is a communist part of it, and that's not a fit for. And then it's regional. So a lot of people are confused, and so they pick up Pan-African and they attack Pan-Africanism because it's a want, but it's not structured. And I think that Dr. John Henry Clark talked about that. So again, what we're doing is allowing people to pick these terms and pick people who are leaders to attack our movements, and the people that should be projected, like my brother that was just talking, Mukasi, and other people, students, right? Well-read students, they're not projected, and that's purposeful. So hopefully they have channels like this as it grows to be able to project the thought.
Reggie, Stupid here. Would you agree that charlatans oftentimes rise to the top of some organization?
All the time.
Well, what Dr. Umar did was he was a charlatan who pronounced himself leader. We have seen similar things in religious organizations. Most serious Pan-Africanists, most serious people who holds to the idea, because there's no conceptualized Pan-African, it's an ideology, who hold to the idea of a Pan-African situation, would not classify him as the leader. He self-proclaimed. He used